One Piece: The Legend of Creation, Chapter 501-520. 501 The Declaration That Shakes the Soul Society. 3 shattering sounds rang out at the same time, and the 3 shells shattered. The force that erupted pushed the weakest Kurosaki Ichigo and his party out. Fortunately, Hiriko Mako felt a little embarrassed. The energy rope tied Kurosaki Ichigo and others directly, preventing them from being scattered like the original. That's because it wasn't scattered or surrounded by rays of light, and Liu Changkong and his party were not covered at all. Dewey was stagnant in the midair of Jingling Court, so the gods of death below could see clearly the appearance of Liu Changkong and his party. After being in Searingdae for more than 100 years, the god of death could see clearly the arrival of Fang, and some weak people almost lost their legs and fell to the ground. Oh my god, that is the former captain of the special unit of the first team, Shanghei Kuimu, who once caused the Zanpakuta disaster in the Soul Society, the former captain of the 5th team, Hiriko Mako, the 2nd team captain, the head of the Sifengyuan, and the 4th class academy. Yi, and that one, Liu Changkong, the demon god of the soul realm. Many gods of death screamed in horror, and because of the words of gods of death, some gods of death who had become gods of death for a short time looked up at these legendary figures in the sky. Finally came back, but what did you decide this time? A complete break. Jingle Chunchui's eyes flashed with all kinds of light. To be honest, he really didn't want to fight those gods of death in the sky. Based on his understanding, Liu Changkong and others above would never do such a thing, but there is conclusive evidence, and it is precisely because of this that Jingle Chunchui is even more suspicious, so he has never stopped secretly over the years. Adjusted the things of the virtual experiment in that year. It's been a drama now. It's been 60 years. How advanced is your strength? The Soul Society is really an idiot. Don't you know that Dajibo Mayan is the eldest brother of his wife Zibo Kong? This kid is the shortest guard. Yes. A hint of war flashed in Zanmu Janba's eyes as he looked at Liu Changkong and thought. Is it still here? This time is an irreversible frontal battle. The old man will never let you leave alive. Justice in the Soul Society's judgment cannot be provoked. After that, Old Man Yamamoto had already decided that he would not show mercy to anyone who violated justice, no matter how much he appreciated them. And Aizen also knew this. That's why he was so arrogant that the person who controlled the 46th room executed Zibo Mayan. He just wanted to use the Old Man Yamamoto to make the Old Man Yamamoto and Liu Changkong fight with all their strength. First, you can find out how far Liu Changkong has reached, and you can also see how far Old Man Yamamoto has reached. Second, if Liu Changkong is defeated, Old Man Yamamoto's character will definitely do everything possible to kill Liu Changkong, so he will give it to himself by the way. Removed a great trouble. Thirdly, if Liu Changkong and the Old Man Yamamoto both suffer, he doesn't mind having a mantis catch the cicada and the oriole at the back, and eliminate the 2 scourges in one fell swoop. Fourth and last, if Liu Changkong wins, he will be seriously injured, and Old Man Yamamoto is similar. Even if he can't kill 2 people at one time, he should be able to sneak attack to kill one of them. Obviously, Aizen's every move is made with careful calculation. Old Man Yamamoto, Liu Changkong stepped out, and the surging spiritual pressure pressed down on the god of death with a monstrous power. All the gods of death below the captain were pressed to the ground, even the gods of death at the captain level had to go all out. Resist, of course, with some exceptions. Do you want to fight this old man now? The Old Man Yamamoto's hunchback waist slowly straightened, as straight as a pine tree, his muscles bulging, as if horned dragons were coiled around his body, and his body also released a terrifying spiritual pressure directly collided with Liu Changkong's spiritual pressure in midair. Who once had to use Bankai to fight against him, has now grown to an unprecedented level of strength. The strength of Reiatsu is not weaker than that of old Yamamoto, who has accumulated countless years, and many captains of the death god are surprised. The 2 spiritual pressures were like water dragons and fire dragons. As they were constantly colliding in the air, a heavy sound continued to explode, and there were circles of air fluctuations in the air, as if the air could not bear the 2. It's like a person's spiritual pressure hits. Of course not, or you don't come. Since you are here, of course you have to solve all the troubles. Back then, it seemed that I was called a criminal of the Soul Society. It seemed that I was never the god of death in the Soul Society, but I did. It doesn't matter, this time my brother-in-law and sister-in-law have all been executed. Very good, then let's settle all the old and new accounts at one time. I will kill all the 46 rooms involved in this judgment and the nobles behind him. Whoever stops me, I'll let him die. Lu Chengkong's tone did not contain a trace of anger, and was very calm. When the last word fell, Lu Chengkong's spiritual pressure suddenly soared, suppressing old man Yamamoto's spiritual pressure in one fell swoop, and at the same time, the released spiritual pressure made many of the gods of death unable to bear and were crushed. How courageous! The old man Yamamoto was angry. That's right, isn't Lu Chengkong saying such words in front of so many people to declare war on the entire Soul Society? Lan Ran's guess was right, Lu Chengkong really didn't plan to have any room for maneuver with the Soul Society this time, either to be killed or to completely suppress the Soul Society, so as to solve all the troubles once and for all. It's really at the worst, said Shishi. Wartime special order, all the gods of death can liberate the Zanpakuto in the Serangé, and do not need to worry about the degree of damage to all buildings, and they will kill any disaster. The old man Yamamoto found that he hadn't been so angry for many years. No matter what, he was the one who loved the corpse and soul world the most. He would never allow anyone to provoke the corpse and soul world. The point of recovery. Yes, some of the gods of death who didn't faint immediately responded, and of course there were a few of them, but old man Yamamoto didn't exist. Have you really broken the limit? It's beyond my expectations. You can't describe it as a genius. Ujawali gave a gentle glance at Lu Chengkong's shoulders, who was looking at himself with eager eyes. Bachan Liu then glanced at Lu Chengkong. A strange light flashed in his eyes. I didn't expect Lu Chengkong to really do it. It exceeded her expectations by a lot. She has never seen any amazing genius death gods in so many years, but it is really rare like Lu Chengkong. Lu Chengkong's Bankai is definitely more than that simple, there is definitely some powerful power hidden in it. 502 The Early Crescent Moon. Originally, Mao Shawali was more pleasing to Lu Chengkong. Everything about him was very unique, and she was very kind to her good daughter, and her good daughter was also very obsessed with him. Iwu and Wusha Lu Chengkong can invite he is the only male death god who has made Hanahana Unuhashi look different for countless years. It's still so hot. Lu Chengkong was not at all worried about the wartime special order he requested. Perhaps this wartime special order was a deadly existence for an ordinary death god captain-level powerhouse, but in Lu Chengkong it seems that this is simply not enough to see. Let's go, this is not the time for a decisive battle. Lu Chengkong took a deep look at Aizen Soyusuke and old man Yamamoto, and then said to the people around him. Yeah. Hiriko Meiko and Kuchiki Shanghai looked at each other. They were both extremely intelligent people, otherwise Aizen wouldn't be so jealous of the two of them, and they would have done more harm. Of course they knew that this was not the time for a decisive battle. Aizen planned to borrow the attention of Ichigo Kurosaki and others who liked most of the gods of death in the Soul Society. It was not the case with Lu Chengkong and others. The day of execution was the time of the war. Therefore, Lu Chengkong and the others used Shunpo to disappear directly into the air, and of course they did not forget to take Kurosaki Ichigo and others. It is the existence of being killed in seconds. Master Chief, do you want to take action to intercept it? Nigong glanced at Lu Chengkong with a wicked look, but he knew that old man Yamamoto was in charge here, and the spiritual pressure just now made him extremely terrified. I'm stupid enough to think that I can stop it by rushing over, but I still have to rely on old man Yamamoto. No need, even if you make a move, you can't stop them. They are already not what they used to be, and they are full of wings, not to mention that it is not the time to start a war. The day when Rukia and Zibo Mayan are executed is the beginning of the war. Now let's get rid of those few poor travel disasters first. The old man Yamamoto deserves to be the captain. He has the same idea as Lu Chengkong. He even saw Lu Chengkong's plan, and he also thinks that today is not the day of the war. He also needs to prepare. Today's Lu Chengkong lets he was extremely afraid, and he had to do his best. Yes, although Ni Yuli was unwilling, he didn't dare to openly disobey the old man Yamamoto. After all, the spiritual pressure of the old man Yamamoto just now was equally frightening. Okay, it's safe here. Lu Chengkong stopped in a deserted place and said to Huling Taijai. Yeah, Huling Taijai nodded. Lu Chengkong, Konghe, Yaiki, Yakiryu, Inoue Orihime, Kuchiki Shanghai, and Hiroko Mako disappeared again. Obviously, they each had their own things to do. To deal with it, Sifeng Yi will go back to the Sifeng family. Lu Chengkong, Yachinliu, and Inoue Orihime are going to look for Ujawali. As for Zibo Kong, of course, go to the Confession Palace to find Rukia and Zibo Mayan. By the way, I took the Bengu out of Rukia's body to heal Zibo Mayan first, so as not to make any unnecessary mistakes. At least let Zibo Mayan have the power to protect herself, which was also decided by Lu Chengkong before. On the other hand, Ichigo Kurosaki and others also started the same battle as in the original book. Ichigo Kurosaki was the first to meet Madaragi, who was far beyond the level of the original book. Tiger met Enjoji Tatsubo, the third seat of the 8th team, after K0 had a large number of death gods. As for the last Ishida Yulong, it was vs very arrogant Silufang. What's the matter, do you have such a little strength? You, the man with glasses, and the burly man, among the three, I feel that your spiritual pressure is the strongest. It turns out that your level is just that little bit, and I am so disappointed. Let's stand together. In the first half of the battle between Madarame and Kurosaki Ichigo, Madarame had the upper hand. Later, Kurosaki Ichigo showed the power of the protagonist halo, K0 Madarame, but at this time Madarami's strength was far superior in this period of the original work. Not only did he have the upper hand, but he also beat Kurosaki Ichigo to the brink with an overwhelming advantage. You bastard, stop looking down on people. Kurosaki Ichigo's face was very ugly, thinking of Lu Chengkong's powerful strength and wind that defeated Kuchiki Byakuya in the wave of his hand. Not long after seeing that he had only entered the Saranjay now, the first Shinigami he met was beaten like this. Under the stimulation of anger and danger, his potential in the Reiatsu that was constantly being absorbed by him, which was sealed in his body, exploded at the same time. Oh, do you still have a backhand? Madaramu's face was overjoyed, and the Onitomaru in his hand kept slashing towards Kurosaki Ichigo at the angle of the drill. I will definitely beat you to the point where you won't be able to pick up the Zanpakuto. Kurosaki Ichigo broke out ahead of time. It should have erupted when he met Renji Asanjing, but now he is under the pressure of Madaragi. He had to turn on the protagonist's halo, and a blue-white spiritual pressure burst out from his body, and his speed and strength suddenly soared. From the beginning, he moved back slowly from the downwind, and even began to gradually suppress the corner of Madaramu. Haha, don't laugh at me, unless you cut off my hand, don't let me hold the Zanpakuto. The corner of Madaramu's eyes also began to be injured, and the blood of the two people was scattered all over the place, and it was impossible to tell whose blood it was. This Uncle Urahara also said that my strength can fight against 3 or 4 seats of death. How come any 3-seat god of death will beat me like this? It's too unreliable for his words. The feeling of the crescent moon and the sky flashed in Kurosaki's mind, like the picture of Urahara Kazuki and his money fight. Fly up. That's right, this kind of strength is worthy of me coming to you. Madaramu laughed excitedly and stepped on the ground. Although he could walk in a blink of an eye, since Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't, there was no need for him to use it. What he likes is the feeling of killing each other, rather than using Shunbu to bully this god of death who doesn't know Shunbu. I'm sorry, I can't let you stop my footsteps, lie down for me. Kurosaki Ichigo roared, his eyes glowing with a pressing cold light. Zanyu is also constantly absorbing Kurosaki Ichigo. The spiritual pressure on the body makes the slash itself huge at the moment of the slash, and then strikes it, releasing a high-density spiritual pressure slash. The crescent-like slash instantly shattered the Onitomaru who was sprinting towards the corner of his eyes, and at the same time left a bone-deep imitation mark on his body. 503 The end of Namori. Ahem, I'm unlucky this time. Madaramu looked at Ichigo Kurosaki. His voice trembled a little, his body's strength was evacuated at a very fast speed along with the imitation mouth on his body, and the whole person collapsed on the ground, but his right hand was holding his Zanpakuto from beginning to end. It's just that when Madaramu woke up, he found that he was not dead, but the blood on his body was gone, and the wounds had even begun to slowly scab. Apart from healing with ghosts, they were the only ones who could have such an effect. Team 11 asked about the medicines that Ujiwali took. Give me back the Zanpakuto. At this moment, most of Madarami's attention was focused on Kurosaki Ichigo holding his Zanpakuto. How could he pay attention to these details? Che, what's the use of your Zanpakuto? I'm just borrowing those hemostatic medicines from you, but the medicines from your soul society are really useful. Kurosaki Ichigo said with a smile, but either way, it looks a bit more nasty. What? I was actually saved by your enemy. Madaramu Yijao had already prepared for death. He was not afraid of death at all. Although he could not reach the realm of Kenpachi, he was indeed not afraid of death. It was hard for him to accept that he was actually saved by an enemy. This kind of feeling is really uncomfortable, and Ichigo Madara, who owes nothing to each other, of course knows what Kurosaki Ichigo wants to ask himself. Tell me. Where is Rukia? Kurosaki Ichigo was just trying it out with a glimmer of hope, but Madaragi really said it. Sure enough, he didn't let him down. Madaramu laughed for a while and still said it, but in the end he asked Kurosaki Ichigo for some unknown reason. I sensed your Reiatsu just now, the three of you are spirits. Although you are the strongest, I still have to ask, are you sure you are the strongest? It should be. Kurosaki Ichigo hesitated for a while, but finally admitted it. Really? Then I will bless you and wish you good luck. It's better to be careful with me. The captain of this team is only interested in powerful people. Madaramu said. Is he very powerful? Kurosaki Ichigo is very sensitive to the word captain now. The old man Yamamoto's Reiki gave him a feeling of being shattered, which is really terrifying. Haha, you've seen that old man who fought against spiritual pressure with Lord Liu Chenggong before. Our captain was able to injure him more than 60 years ago. After more than 60 years, our captain can be said to be a powerful and frightening existence in the current Gotei 13th Division. Even Captain Yamamoto must be careful when facing our captain. Captains of the same level, such as before you Kuchiki Byakuya, who has met in this world, is simply vulnerable in front of our captain. That's right, Madarame is not lying. As someone who has been with Kenpachi for a long time, no one knows more about Kenpachi's terrifying power over the past 60 years than him. Vulnerable, is it really that strong? Kurosaki Ichigo stopped and said in disbelief. Hehe, I'm worried that you will die without even knowing his power, so I said I wish you good luck. Madaramu said with a smile. The person he admired and admired most in his life was Kenpachi's Akagi. Even more fanatical than the original. What's his name? Kurosaki Ichigo asked, forcing the shock in his heart down. He's the captain of the 11th Division, Kenpachi Zaraki. Madaramu said word by word. At the same time, after Kurosaki Ichigo defeated Madarame and left, Tudu Taihu Ishida Yulong and others also defeated their opponents with their own abilities. After a lot of trouble, they still encountered the original book. Opponents, such as Chadu Taihu met Jingle Chunchui, Ishida Yulong met the perverted Niniori, and Kurosaki Ichigo met the 6th Division Vice Captain Renji Asanjing together after meeting Hanataro. He is the luckiest one. Is this the strength of the captain? Even if it is far inferior to Liu Chenggong, it is still a high mountain for me now. Ishida Yulong glanced at the wound on his body, and then glanced at the disdainful person standing in front of him. Looking at his nirvana, he secretly said in his heart, I'm sorry, master. Ishida Yulong took off the loose spirit gloves, and the spiritual pressure on his body suddenly soared. His appearance also changed, and at the same time, he also obtained the terrible ability to control the spirit child. I have to say that this world is fair to a certain extent. Although the Death God has many powerful abilities such as Zanpakudo, Ghost Dao, Shunbu, Bai Da, Kendo, etc., the Quincy Master cannot match. But the Quincy Master's control over the Spirit Sun is slightly ahead of the Death God every time, and even the Death God can control the Spirit Sun after breaking the limit, but Ishida Yulong doesn't need it. How is this Reiatsu, this costume, possible? Niyuli's pupils shrank for a moment, and she could no longer maintain a smug, disdainful, mocking smile. Just when he was surprised, Ishida Yulong had already shot, and the arrow flew out. The speed was completely comparable to the speed of the magic spear used by Ichimaru Jin when he was at Seringen. Of course, Ichimaru Jin didn't use his full strength at that time. And his limit is far from this, but this is already very terrifying, not to mention that this arrow Ishida Yulong also did not use all his strength, but it was just an arrow to test and control. It's so fast, but I should be able to dodge it. Niyuli was startled at first, then smiled, but unfortunately his smile soon solidified. Because he saw that Ishida Yulong had already aimed at him above, and a much stronger spiritual arrow than before came out of the air, with a whistling sound that cut through the air, blasted his whole body into the ground, and exploded. A lot of dust. You kneel down to me and cry and beg me, maybe I will let you go in that way, otherwise I will shoot with 3 times the strength before. Ishida Yulong said coldly, although there is no Nyan dream, however, Niyuli used the essence of the righteous skeleton technology and the righteous soul technology to create another death god to use the same attack method as the original. You'd better not be too arrogant, you're just a trivial Quincy Master. That's fine, then I'll fight you with the same strength as you, Benkai. Golden Kill Jizo. It really deserves to be a Zanpakudo from the same soul. After Benkai, the appearance after that is as ugly as Nimeori. It is a pity that Ishida Yulong quickly recovered after being surprised at the beginning. Pakudo's instant kill. You goddamn Quincy. Niyuli looked down at his chest, which had been punched with a big hole, and roared angrily, but he didn't lose his mind. He slashed his throat with a slap turned into a pile of green liquid. 504 bombing and killing Nirvana. Hee, Quincy, it's a pity, I can't get you such good research materials, but this is my last trump card. Although I can't make any attacks, the same attacks are useless to me. Nirvana, who drank the green liquid, said slowly in a low voice, quite like a villain. Really, Niyuli, I'm sorry, maybe I want you to sleep here tonight. Just when Ishida Yulong didn't know how to live, a voice suddenly floated. The surging spiritual pressure has an icy characteristic, so that the areas covered by the spiritual pressure formed layers of frost without exception, freezing Namori who was about to slip away. Although it couldn't hurt him, it made him there was no way to escape. This spiritual pressure, it's you. Niyuli's voice sounded again, but this time, there was no complacent before, instead there was a panic that anyone could hear. I said back then that the liquid you requested is not invalid for any attack, it's just that the attack has not reached the limit your liquid can withstand, so it is useless. Lu Chengkong did not know when he appeared in Shishin Yulong behind him. He stepped out from the darkness, with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. What do you want to do? Niyuli had already guessed what Lu Chengkong was going to do. Although Nian Meng was taken away by me, I won't be abused by you like this god of death, but I don't like to leave any hidden dangers, so you can die. Under Ishida Yulong's unbelievable gaze, Lu Chengkong was on his body. The same changes began to take place as he did, and all the nearby buildings turned into spiritual suns and were controlled by Lu Chengkong. You, aren't you the god of death? How could it be possible to control the spiritual child like a Quincy? Niyuli and Ishida Yulong said this time in a very tacit understanding. After breaking the limits of the god of death and the void, controlling the spirit child is just a trivial matter. Lu Chengkong said with a little amusing, wrong, he can now attack the spirit child arrow just like Ishida Yulong, and it is even far more powerful. Many times more than Ishida Yulong. Don't you look down on the Quincy Master. I will be a good person today. His grandfather died in your hands, so I will let you die in the hands of the Quincy Master's spiritual arrow. Lu Chengkong. While speaking, a large bow made up of spirits appeared in his left hand, and a giant arrow over 3 meters long was pinched in his right hand, aiming at the pile of liquid in front of him. No, you can't do this. I'm the captain of the Soul Society and the director of the Technology Development Bureau. I will kill you who will not be spared by the Soul Society. And proud, he said in a sharp and frightened voice, while the liquid kept shaking, trying to break free from the frost covering him. 88 Newly. Lu Chengkong snorted coldly. The spiritual pressure in his body melted into the giant spirit arrow in his hand as if he didn't need money, causing the spirit arrow to instantly radiate, and an extreme sense of danger enveloped Nirvana. Maori's heart. Lu Chengkong's right hand was gently released, and the giant spirit arrow broke through the air. The speed and power were so fast that even the space was distorted. Almost as soon as he released his hand, the spirit arrow had already shot at Newly's body. The dazzling blue light soared into the sky, illuminating the dark night of the soul world, and Nyayungli only had time to let out a scream full of unwillingness, fear, and resentment before passing away completely. The kindness to the enemy is the cruelty to oneself. It's no wonder that you are just a high school student who has only lived for more than 10 years. It's normal that you are not cruel enough. Lu Chengkong said to Ishida Yulong, and at the same time he threw a bottle of medicine over, and Ishida Yulong reached out to catch it and looked at Lu Chengkong in doubt. Although you can control the spiritual child, your body can't bear the toxin of the Nikori Zanpakuto at all. This is the antidote. Lu Chengkong's figure flashed after speaking, and he didn't give Ishida Yulong a chance to speak. Disappeared in place. What a strange man. Maybe such a person is a truly qualified and powerful god of death. Is kindness to the enemy equal to cruelty to oneself? I remember it. Ishida Yulong's eyes flashed, and he didn't doubt whether there was any problem with the medicine in his hand. After all, he knew that if he didn't take it, he would surely die, and with the opponent's strength, he didn't need to use poison to be so boring. It's a pity, if I had heard this sentence earlier, I would have already died of the ability of a Quincy. Ishida Yulong smiled bitterly, but he was more happy because his grandfather vengeance can be considered revenge. It's not too late. If you live to the present world, go to your father. He has a way to restore your ability as a quencher, even better than before. There is no one-night feud between two fathers and sons. A voice drifted in. Ishida Yulong's ears were the voice of Lu Chengkong who had already left. Father, you are really mysterious enough, you know everything. Ishida Yulong muttered to himself, but the loss in his eyes disappeared, and a strong vitality burned. Obviously he didn't want to die, especially when he knew after the power of his own quencher can be restored, he even does not want to die. Aizen, you're dead, isn't it weird? Are you cheating? It's getting more and more chaotic. The most suspicious person is now dead, hey. Jingle Chunchui looked at Tudu Taihu, who was already lying on the ground in a coma, and received a message from his vice captain, which made him feel agitated for a while. It just started not long ago. By the way, because Aiznaneo left the Soul Society when he was a child, his vice captain is an unknown death god, and since this book will not appear again, he will not give his vice captain a name. What the hell is going on? How can there be such a powerful Reiatsu? Shiba Gansu said with sweat on his face. Although I don't know what's going on, I know that there is definitely a very powerful death god near here. Let's go, we must get out of here before he finds out. In the face of this terrible Reiatsu, even Kurosaki Ichigo, who defeated Renji Asani at the cost of serious injuries, can't have any thoughts of fighting right now. Not only that, but the Reiatsu seemed to follow him. No matter where the three of Kurosaki Ichigo ran, they would follow them, as if there was a knife on their necks. The pressure is getting heavier and heavier, especially the legs seem to be several times heavier, and each step costs a lot. Hee, the warm-up match before the war. Very good, I should be able to use his body to wipe my Zanpakuto clean. Zaraki Kenpachi sat on a high place, sneering as he looked down like a clown the three running Kurosaki Ichigo. 505 Janba vs Yihu. Jingle. The sound of a bell seemed very strange in a quiet environment, and at the same time, Ichigo Kurosaki discovered the owner of this reiatsu, a spiky head, with a bell at the top of each sting, with a blindfold. A pair of eyes full of violent and ferocious rays of light, making people feel soft all over and hair in the bottom of their hearts. What are you looking at over there? When did you see it? Just as Kurosaki Ichigo was still in a daze, Kenpachi Zaraki's voice came from behind him, and the terrifying murderous aura made the entire nearby space appear to be a mess. Chilling, Ichigo Kurosaki has a feeling of being pierced through his heart by a Zanpakuto. This murderous aura is so huge that it seems to be real, it is too terrifying. I've already been hit, what's the matter? Could it be murderous? It's impossible. Kurosaki Ichigo felt his feet a little weak, but he did not let himself fall. Zaraki Kenpachi is already a mountain for him now. Not to mention the current Zanaki Kenpachi, and in the original book, he could lose both because Zanyu gave his strength to him with all his strength, and the explosion of spiritual pressure on his body, plus Zanaki Kenpachi was not losing at all. When he has been fighting with the same strength as him, and it can even be said that it is completely to let Kurosaki Ichigo, to put it directly, he intends to fatten Kurosaki Ichigo before killing him. You are Ichigo Kurosaki. A hint of disappointment flashed in Kenpachi's eyes. He didn't expect that the person he wasted so much time looking for would be so useless. Although there was a powerful spiritual pressure lurking in his body, obviously he can't control it, and Zanaki Kenpachi actually found a trace of panic in his eyes, which made him feel disappointed. No matter how powerful a person like this is, it is useless, and there is no equivalent to him. Courage and mood. How do you know my name? Kurosaki Ichigo found that his heart rate was too fast, and he was really worried that his heart would jump out. Did that kid in the corner not advance me to you? Kenpachi Zengeki already felt more and more boring, and he didn't even want to waste time, so he went straight to the point. I'm the captain of the 11th team, Kenpachi Zengeki. 8. Zaraki Kenpachi. Although Kurosaki Ichigo had already guessed it, he couldn't help gasping for a breath. Without a word, he immediately let Shiba Ganshu take Hanataro away, and even pulled out Zanyu's guard. Looking at Zengi Kenpachi, it's a pity that Zanaki Kenpachi ignored the two who escaped from beginning to end. I'm sorry, I won't let you leave here, Kurosaki Ichigo said. Hehe, I'm not interested in the weak. I was originally interested in your reiatsu, but now you're really disappointing me. Forget it, just wipe the Zanpakuto with your body. Don't say I won't give you a chance. Come on, I'll let you chop first. Any part of your body is whatever you want. If you have the ability, you'd better chop me to death with one knife, then that's the best. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled grimly and said to Kurosaki Ichigo. What, you actually asked me to cut down a defenseless person? Stop joking. Kurosaki Ichigo only felt that there was something wrong with the person in front of him. It's very manly, but you should talk about it when you are fighting with others. I just want to give you some sweetness, otherwise it's really boring to end it too soon, and I don't even have a chance to pass the time. What a waste of me looking for you for so long. Zaragi Kenpachi hihi isho, unmoved, and motioned for Kurosaki Ichigo to hurry up. Ha! Ichigo Kurosaki roared, stepping on the ground with one foot, rushing towards Kenpachi Zengi like a detached arrow, and the Zanyu in his hand slashed fiercely on Kenpachi's body. Boom! The effect of force is mutual, unless you have overwhelming power, or you have a method to dissolve the rebounded power. Unfortunately, Kurosaki Ichigo obviously does not have overwhelming power, but instead is shocked by his own tiger's mouth. It cracked, and blood slowly dripped onto the ground. Blow, it's so boring. Zaragi Kenpachi said disappointedly. Kurosaki Ichigo tried several times in a row, but it was useless. In panic, he could only play hide-and-seek with Zaragi Kenpachi, but when Chadutai after the tiger's spiritual pressure disappeared, he was shocked, slowly cheered up, and Zanyu slashed diagonally in his hand. Reiatsu finally hurt Kenpachi, but unfortunately, only scratched the surface of the skin. White marks appeared. The gap is really too big, but it's nothing. Kurosaki has cheered up. even he also said that Zanaki Kenpachi looked down on him and let Zanaki Kenpachi free his Zanpakuto. The liberation of Zanpakuto. If it was 60 years ago, I would definitely tell you that he has no name at all, and he himself is not under seal. He even said that the spiritual pressure is too strong to be sealed. Forget it, with you. Saying this is superfluous. You must be thinking that now you can hurt me as long as you push harder, or even beat me if I'm careless. I release Zanpakuto. Zaraki sword Baya stabbed it, and Ichigo Kurosaki raised Zanyu to block it. Unfortunately, Zanyu's hard blade was like a thin layer of paper. Ichigo's unbelievable gaze pierced his chest. You're talking too much nonsense. I heard the voice of Tei-chan, although I haven't cut blood yet, but if you continue to concentrate, you should be able to cut me. It's a pity that you think you can hit 1 or 2 key points. Starting to think that you are underestimating the enemy. This is the end of the game, boring. Quote. Zaraki Kenpachi has basically been disappointed with the Kurosaki Ichigo in front of him. When he saw Kurosaki Ichigo cheering up, he even decided to reduce his strength to the same level as Kurosaki Ichigo and fight with him, but unfortunately it was still a mess. Not on the wall. However, there are no absolutes in the world. The power of the protagonist's halo is still very good. After Zanaki Kenpachi turned around and walked a few steps, Ichigo Kurosaki stood up again. Otherwise, the sealed spiritual pressure in his body would also at the same time, he absorbed a large part of it, so that he was not at the level of Deputy Captain Sword to the weakest captain level, which was even weaker than Tushiro's level, but it was enough for Zakagi Kenpachi to eat startled. What's the matter? He was actually resurrected, and the spiritual pressure keeps rising. By the way, the spiritual pressure in his body that does not belong to him has begun to merge with his own spiritual pressure. Haha, great, now you should be able to cut me. A hint of joy flashed in Zanaki Kenpachi's eyes. No matter what, this was a good thing for him. 506 The Secret of Zaragi Kenpachi. Uncle Zanyu, I won't let you down again. Kurosaki Ichigo shouted in his heart, rushing up to Zanyu Kenpachi, with the cold light slashing at Zanyu Kenpachi's head ruthlessly. On the left shoulder, blood sputtered out. I'm sorry, I don't want to waste any more time, I want to end this battle in one breath. Kurosaki Ichigo said calmly. After many battles and the almost death just now, he no longer had any heart to underestimate the enemy. Hehe, you have to end this battle in one go. It's not good. I'm a little excited about you now. Zakagi Kenpachi laughed loudly, stepped on the ground with one foot, and directly stepped out of the solid ground. Shenking's body shot out, and Reiatsu bit Kurosaki Ichigo like an angry lion, causing his face to change slightly. At the same time, Kenpachi Zaraki ignored the wound that Kurosaki Ichigo cut on his body, and it could even be said that he let him cut. Of course, the Zanpakuto in his hand also slid towards Kurosaki Ichigo, leaving a mark on his face. A wound. As the two of you came and went, Ichigo Kurosaki became more and more frightened. At first, he thought he could suppress Kenpachi Zakagi, but as the two Zanpakuto continued to confront each other, they crisscrossed each other. He was horrified to find that he seemed to be playing with Kenpachi Zaragi from the beginning to the end, and the wounds he could leave on his body were completely cut by him if he did not resist. Ichigo, don't be afraid, you still have me, can you trust me completely? Zanyu suddenly appeared behind Kurosaki Ichigo and asked in a low voice. Of course, I can give you all of my strength unconditionally. I just hope you can accompany me to the end. Kurosaki Ichigo said without giving up. Very good. Zanyu didn't have the slightest emotional fluctuation, but his body quickly disappeared, and the spiritual pressure on Kurosaki Ichigo also began to soar. Zanyu lent all his power to Kurosaki Ichigo. Not only that, but the spiritual pressure in his body was completely released. Although Kurosaki Ichigo has no way to control it, but now he can barely release it with the help of Zanyu, but after the end of the battle, at least half of the Reiatsu will fall asleep again, but it is not sealed, as long as Kurosaki Ichigo is strong enough to wake it up. Is it still possible to improve? Zaragi Kenpachi said strangely. Of course I can, I borrowed the power of Zanyu, and I will never lose against someone like you who fights alone. Obviously he thought that Zanpakuto of Zanpakuto could not be released. Hehe, single-handedly, you can also say the same, because you are only worthy of letting me fight alone. Zakagi Kenpachi took off the blindfold, and the terrifying spiritual pressure directly materialized into a beam of light that shot up into the sky, directly piercing the sky in all directions. The building blew a little tossed about. How could it be? Kurosaki Ichigo exclaimed, thinking that he would definitely win if he borrowed Zanyu's power, but now that he saw Kenpachi take off the blindfold, it would become so terrifying. The strength of this spiritual pressure has exceeded the level of reaching the peak of the dead seed without breaking the limit. It can even be said that it is a little weaker than the old man Yamamoto who released the spiritual pressure and Lu Chengkong Lu Peng before. In the case of Zanpakuto, what if it is freed? This is my normal Reiatsu. Ichigo Kurosaki, don't let me down, just hold on for a while. Zaragi Kenpachi roared, and instead of using Shunpo, he rushed towards Kurosaki one step at a time. However, with every step he took, the pressure on Kurosaki Ichigo continued to increase. Ichigo, my ability to stop the bleeding on your body is about to reach its limit, so let's take this blow to win him. Zanyu's voice sounded in Kurosaki Ichigo's heart. Okay. Kurosaki Ichigo nodded, and rushed towards Zanyu Kenpachi in the same way. A dazzling blue-white light burst out from Zanyu's blade, and a huge crescent was struck by Zanyu. Is this your Zanpakuto ability? It's very good, but it seems that you can't completely control it, you can only use it accidentally, or is this your Zanpakuto helping you? Incompetent talent needs Zanpakuto's help. Although I can also liberate Zanpakuto, my swordsmanship is completely different from yours. I force Zanpakuto to submit, obey me completely, and let him tell me his name, everything about him is determined by me. I take control, and I don't need him to help me at all. It can even be said that my Zanpakuto is dead, and it has completely become a part of my power. The Zanpakuto in Zanpakutaki's hand was colliding with Kurosaki Ichigo's crescent moon. With a loud noise, a wave of air emanated, smashing all the nearby buildings, and the crescent moon slammed into the sky. It smashed into pieces, leaving a deep, bone-deep scar on Kurosaki Ichigo's body. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes widened. He didn't expect that Kenpachi Zaraki would tell such a secret. That's right, after using kendo to fight with old man Yamamoto, Kenpachi Zengeki really gave birth to a slash of understanding. Pakuto's idea, but he gave up after trying it several times to no avail. At the same time, he also felt that using his own method, after a lot of hard work, he forcibly entered his own spiritual world, fought with his Zanpakuto, forced him to submit, and knew everything about his Zanpakuto. The secret. Later, he was unhappy that there was such a sword spirit in his heart. He actually used the ability of his Zanpakuto to absorb the sword spirit. It can be said that his current Zanpakuto has a Zanpakuto, or it can be said that he does not. Because he is Zanpakuto, Zanpakuto is him. All the abilities of Zanpakuto are his strength, and it is a part of his strength. The extent to which the power of Zanpakuto, which has lost the spirit of the sword, is completely determined by the strength of Zanpakuto himself. Kurosaki Ichigo said that incompetent people need Zanpakuto to help him, and he completely devoured the spirit of the sword. Controlling the Zanpakuto completely in his hands, it can be said that even if Shanghai Kunjung stood in front of Zanpakuto, he could not control his Zanpakuto, because Zanpakuto's Zanpakuto was already dead. All the power of Zanpakuto became a part of Kenpachi Zaraki. There is actually such a crazy god of death, who can devour the sword spirit of Zanpakuto. His Zanpakuto ability must be crazy, brutal, bloody, just like himself. I didn't expect such a god of death to exist. Really, it's strange, his mind is so peaceful. Logically speaking, such a god of death should be controlled by his own power and lost in the abyss of power. 507. The aura of the protagonist is not enough. In Kurosaki Ichigo's spiritual world, Zanyu also heard the words of Kenpachi Zakagi. He was also sluggish for a while. He had never been emotionally fluctuated. For the first time, he felt a sense of anger. It is possible to have the same sword, but swallowing the Zanpakuto is almost impossible. It can be said that such a god of death has appeared for the first time since ancient times, so it is no wonder that Zanyu is so angry, but Zanyu knows that Kenpachi Zakagi has a pure heart that is only eager to fight and enjoy fighting. It is precisely because of this that Zanaki Kenpachi can perfectly control all of his own power, including his Zanpakuto ability, which has been transformed into his power and is judged as bloody, brutal and aggressive by Zanyu. "I'm sorry Uncle Zanyu, I lost," Ichigo Kurosaki muttered. His eyes darkened and he fell down, but Ichigo Kurosaki didn't see that the wound on Kenpachi's body was actually visible to the naked eye after he fell. The visible speed resumed, and after a few seconds, there was no more wound on his body. If it weren't for the signs of being cut, it would be impossible for people to believe that he was cut just now, and the blood dripping from him on the ground just now doesn't know when it disappeared. Sure enough, Ichigo Kurosaki relied on his own talent and the powerful spiritual pressure that Kurosaki Masaki gave him in his body, plus the halo in the upper corner, a little bit of luck, and the teachings of Kazuki Urahara. Zanyu gave him no reservations. The power of the corpse made him more and more brave in the world of corpse and soul. But when the protagonist's aura was exhausted, he entered the soul realm with the strength of the first 3 or 4 seats, and it was a miracle to be able to fight until now. How about killing and killing? Forget it, let's fatten up and kill again. Hehe, if he learns Bankai and completely masters the Reiatsu that is sleeping most of the time in his body again, he will be a good opponent at that time. Zaraki Kenpachi looked down at Kurosaki Ichigo who was still bleeding at his feet, hesitated for a while and finally decided to fatten up before killing. It's a pity that he didn't kill the people who Ichigo Kurosaki was hiding on the side, but he didn't know he had this kind of idea. Seeing Ichigo Kurosaki falling, Grim Tetsusai, who was hiding on the side, knew that it was time for him to take action. The 92 binding roads, swastikas, first songs, paper stretches. He really deserves to be the leader of the ghost Taoists. As soon as the grip of Ling Taijai made a move, it was a super high-level binding Dao, and the huge strip of cloth was wrapped around Zengmu. Sword 8. Has the mouse that was stealing chickens and dogs in the back finally came out. Zaragi Kenpachi was immediately upset when he saw that the other party used his least favorite ghost way to fight with him. What he likes is the feeling of fighting with death gods like Liu Chengkong and Kurosaki Ichigo, and the feeling of swords colliding, but no matter how unhappy he is, since the other party has shot, he has not fully enjoyed the battle just now, and he has just been provoked to fight. He had no choice but to take Ling Taijai to vent his anger. A shocking slash. Zaraki Kenpachi yelled, and the yellow spiritual pressure was released from the Zanpakuto and turned into a huge cone-shaped slash. It can be said that Zanaki Kenpachi created it for himself based on his powerful spiritual pressure. The long-range attack of course, is not as powerful as Kurosaki Ichigo's Crescent Moon. After all, Crescent Moon Chong is the only and strongest trick of Zanyu, and Zengi Kenpachi's shocking slash is completely released by its own strength, and it is not the ability of Zanpakuto at all. Of course, it cannot be compared with Crescent Moon Chong. However, relying on his inhuman powerful Reiatsu, he still possesses enormous power. Scoff. The tapered slash directly destroyed the strip of cloth, while the remaining slash stabbed at Nishitetsusai. Twice 100 consecutive bolts, the 81 way of binding, breaking the air. While holding Ling Taijai, he continued to release the binding road just now, and at the same time release the broken space to block the slash of Zengi Kenpachi. Cut. Zengoku Kenpachi spun the Zanpakuto in his hand in a circle, blocking all the dozens of iron sticks flying towards him in front of him. At the same time, his figure flashed, and a Shunbu appeared in the grip of Ryatsusai. Behind him, a flash of lightning stabbed at the lungs of Naruhitsusai. Mirror door. Holding Ling Taijai's face remained unchanged, and a small enchantment appeared, directly blocking Zengeki Kenpachi's flashing flowers, and at the same time widening the distance between the two sides. The final song Swastika is forbidden, the 88th of Breaking the Road. Flying Dragon strikes the thief and thunder cannon. A huge monument with the swastika fell from the sky, and at the same time, it attacked Zengi Kenpachi with the straight beam thunder cannon in front. The ghosts are very good. It is worthy of being the masters of the great ghosts. However, I don't like this kind of fighting method. The yellow Zanpakudo, with an aura that was enough to split the world into two, slashed towards Goro Shitsusai. From this, it can be seen that Kenpachi's Kenpachi is far from being comparable to that of the rudimentary Kenpachi in the original book. Now his kendo is no worse than that of Old Man Yamamoto, and he even has the momentum of being better than Blue. Rarely used, he is on par with the Old Man Yamamoto who has existed for thousands of years in such a short period of time. I believe that his cultivation in kendo will surpass that of the Old Man Yamamoto soon. You must know that any of the death skills of Old Man Yamamoto is cultivated to the pinnacle. It can be said that it is a limitless existence, and with the blessing of the Spirit King, the power he exerts even exceeds that of many death gods who have just broken the limit, and Zengi Kenpachi his kendo is comparable to such a pervert, and it has to be said that the talent is terrifying. When did this monster have such an unfathomable kendo cultivation base, even if it is not Urahara-sama, even if it is the commander-in-chief? The Shinigami of the newly born Big Three is really not easy, and he is completely draining the water in the battle with Ichigo. Quote. Huling Tizai's face changed greatly. He knew that he would be defeated and even killed in the short term, let alone preaching to Ichigo Kurosaki. What made him even more palpitated was that he was on the side and overheard it. What Saraki Kenpachi said to Kurosaki Ichigo. I also know that this Shinigami in the entire Soul Realm doesn't seem to be able to release Zanpakudo, but he will actually release Zanpakudo. Monsters, it's hidden too deep. This Shinigami who seems to only like fighting is hidden from outsiders. Such a terrible backhand. God, it's so scary when you can't liberate the Zanpakudo, and from the look of him, it's obvious that he can handle it with ease. He can use any level of strength against any level of opponent. In addition to the liberation of Zanpakudo, there is obviously a hidden clumsiness. With such knowledge, how dare he stay and retreat directly? Look, I can only use the forbidden technique, the 91 way of breaking the road. Shinsho Joushin eliminates the artillery. Cold sweat broke out on the forehead of Huling Tejai, and Vivi's face was a little blue, obviously using the number 91 breaking way. Moreover, it was very expensive for him to give up singing, but this time is obviously not the time to be concerned about these. What he wants is that this move can hold back the footsteps of Zanaki Kenpachi going. 508 The one who got hit has no temper. Several thick laser-like rays of light hit Zanaki Kenpachi's body. Huge explosions sounded one after another, billowing smoke and dust formed a mushroom cloud, and the surrounding area was blown up by the power of the explosion, and it became chaotic. It will cost a lot of money to repair it. Forbidden technique, space transfer. Garashi Tetsuai picked up Ichigo Kurosaki in a blink of an eye, completely ignoring the pale face, forcibly using the forbidden technique, and disappeared in place in an instant, and the two of them disappeared at the same time with the wooden sword. Eitza blade also just cut in the position before they disappeared. Che, I'm really upset. He actually let him escape, but it's really not easy to be able to use the forbidden technique, but from the look of him, it should be used forcibly, and it's still a long way from the level of casual use. Zaraki Kenpachi slashed, muttered, and put away the Zanpakudo. He turned around and left regardless of the destroyed buildings around him. He was here just to pass the time. Now it can be considered that the expected goal has been barely achieved, and the only thing left to do is to wait for the execution. Whether it is Lu Chengkong telling him or because of his intuition, he knows that there will definitely be a series of shocking battles on the day of execution, but he is eager till that day comes. Where is this place? When Kurosaki Ichigo woke up, he discovered that this was an unknown place, a very wide cave, and it could even be said to be a unique place, and there was a hot spring in it. This is the enemy that Urahara-sama created in the first place. Garashi Tetsusai appeared out of nowhere and was so frightened that Ichigo Kurosaki almost fainted again. It turned out to be Uncle Urahara. Kurosaki Ichigo snorted, thinking of the strength of Kenpachi Zakagi, and his last words, which made him remember freshly. He and Zanyu had done their best, but they couldn't shake the opponent's strength. Have you understood your own shortcomings? It's not a shame to lose once, not to mention that you are facing one of the best super death gods in the soul world, but if you continue to be decadent, don't teach anyone else, whether it can go back to the present world is still a question. Quote. Looking at Kurosaki Ichigo's expression, Grimitejai knew what he was thinking, but instead of persuading him, he used encouragement. Don't provoke me, I won't give up, it's not like I haven't lost. Uncle, I know you must have some way to make me stronger. Ichigo Kurosaki recovered very quickly, and I have to say that the protagonists of the anime, Grim Reaper, and One Piece King of Pirates have extraordinary nerves. The liberation of Zanpakuto is divided into two levels. The first is Shikai, that is, the Zanyu in your hand. You only need to hear the name of Zanpakuto and you can do it. Didn't master Shikai thoroughly. You also have a crescent-like slash, which is very powerful. It should be Shikai's only stunt. If you can use it at will, you should be invincible against death gods below the captain level, but there is no time for you to master it now. Only allows you to learn the second level in advance, Bankai. Goku Itejai took out the god-turning body from somewhere and said slowly. Bankai, did you bring this thing out so that you can learn Bankai? Kurosaki Ichigo was obviously not an idiot, and immediately detected the idea of Garichai. That's right, normally speaking, it is impossible for even the most talented Shinigami to understand Bankai without a certain age. Take Kuchiki Byakuya who defeated you as an example. He is Kuchiki, the leader of the four nobles. The head of the home. He has resources far beyond all Reaper plus the day and night teachings of the Captain Reaper, and he is also a genius. Under such circumstances, it took many years to complete Bankai. That is just the ability to use Shikai. It does not mean to master Bankai, let alone to maximize the power of Bankai. It is difficult to master Bankai to the extreme without hundreds of years of training. And now there is obviously not so much time. This is called the God-turning body, which was developed by Urahara-sama to make the Shinigami instant Bankai. It can forcibly copy the body of the Zanpakuto and collect it. You can initially use Bankai. By the way, Bankai's power is 5 to 10 times that of Shikai. Of course, how many times you can play depends on your understanding and development of Bankai. Said Ling Tejai. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't even think about taking out Zanyu next to him and threw it at him. He guessed in his heart that if he failed, he would not end well, but Zanyu told him. Forget the fear, look ahead, move forward, never stop. Retreat will only lead to aging. Cowardice will inevitably lead to death. As long as you keep going, never think that you will fail to make him stronger. Let Zanyu the power is stronger, so he did not think about the consequences of failure. I think the only thing I want to know is what's the difference between the Bankai completed using this method and the Bankai who realized his own epiphany. It's a big ghost, how can it be bad? Of course there are differences, but what's more, I lost the process of comprehending the actualization of Zanpakuto's body, and the use and control of Bankai was not good enough, and I even left the soul-rich place like the soul world and returned to running. If you are in the real world or in an empty circle, you may not be able to use Bankai. Bankai has just been completed. The power of self-comprehension and use of God-turning body is almost the same. Garashi Tetsusai said what Yoichi didn't tell Kurosaki Ichigo in the original novel. Who can complete Bankai the fastest in the Soul Society alone? Kurosaki Ichigo asked such an irrelevant question out of curiosity. I came from a commoner and didn't teach me. After I became a god of death, I completed Bankai in less than a year, and Lancet Sora. Tejai was stunned for a while, obviously not expecting Kurosaki Ichigo to ask. Even so, he said it honestly. It's him. Kurosaki Ichigo thought of that man, the man who had been his teacher several times, and felt discouraged. The gap was really too big. Ichigo, let's start. Zanyu slowly appeared, and at the same time, countless Zanpakuto of different shapes appeared around. I know Uncle Zanyu. Kurosaki Ichigo took a deep breath and discarded his distracting thoughts. Of course, he knew what to do with Zanyu, and he took out his Zanpakuto and charged at Zanyu at will. Ichigo, I admit that you have great potential, and you don't need to accumulate spiritual pressure like us gods of death. You can achieve it quickly and improve your real sword very quickly, but if you compare with him, forget it, you will definitely lose your temper. Goroshi Tetsusai quietly watched the battle between Kurosaki Ichigo and Zanyu, and thought so in his heart. 509 Shikai of Kenpachi. The Kuchiki family, at this time, saw an old man wearing gorgeous clothes and exuding an aristocratic atmosphere in the very secret room, looking ahead with a grim look on his face. This person is the retired Kuchiki Yinling. Even by Zai's White Emperor sword lost. Can he use the power of the virtual? Could it be that he broke the limit of the god of death and the virtual, and reached the point of integration? If so, it will be troublesome, and a rotten wood will our Kumu family has turned the world upside down, plus Saifeng Yuan Yei, Hirako Junzi, and Lu Chengkong. The Kumu family has really ushered in the biggest persuasion in 1,000 years, and it seems that we can only use him. Kuchiki Yinling pondered for a long time, as if he had made a decision that he did not want to make, and he looked like his father and mother had died. Junyang Execution Ground. At this time, it is full of death gods, and the worst is the existence of the third officer of the death god. Obviously, every officer is a high-level existence in the soul world, but it is obvious that they are almost all on alert. As if waiting for someone to come. Deputy Captain Heian. Rukia may not have committed enough crimes against Zibo Heian, so it is not her who will be executed first, but Zibo Heian. At this time, Rukia is very sad when she sees that her former most respected captain is about to be executed. Haha, don't act like a dead dad, I'm not dead yet. Zibo Heian said with a smile, with a calmness that made them face death calmly in the eyes of other gods of death. The heart is broken, but if you pay attention, you will find that Zibo Heian's eyes flashed a little sadness. He is not sad for himself, but for his wife. Although he was finally saved by Madarame and Ace Kawakami, his wife died. Zibo Heian, what other last words do you have to tell us? The old man Yamamoto said with a very generous look. Fortunately, there are many people here who know his character very well, such as Hujiyoung, the vice-captain of Ujawali. Yin felt that it was a bit too much. She knew that old man Yamamoto's words would never be fulfilled. A last word. I never thought I would die, and I don't need to explain any last words. It was obvious that Zibo Heian knew the character of the old man Yamamoto, so he didn't have any unnecessary nonsense, but seemed very confident. If that's the case, then let's start the execution. The old man Yamamoto's expression remained unchanged, and he was not angry at Zibo's remorse for Yan's words, nor was he annoyed at his contempt for his own majesty. It's so disgraceful. Boom. With the liberation of Shuangshan, the blue light burst out from the sky, covering the entire execution ground of Shino, and even the god of death in Saranjay saw the bigger and bigger blue light and more powerful Reiatsu. After all, it was 100. It is composed of 10,000 Zanpakudo, although they are all the lowest Zanpakudo. Is it coming? It looks like I'm going to hurry up. Hitsugaya Tushiro, who had been confused by Momo's affairs recently, knew what to do. Hey, it's finally started. Zaragi Kenpachi grinned Isho, and then looked at Komamura Zojin who was fighting with him and even used Benkai in front of him. Although fighting with the two captains is also good fun, I'm sorry, I can't waste too much time here playing with you two gods of death. Zakagi Kenpachi said. Arrogant. After Benkai, the voice of Komamura Zojin has become even louder, with an oppressive force. Ordinary gods of death are so frightened that their legs are weak in the face of this voice, but to Zaragi Kenpachi, it is basically a form. Same as fictitious. Komamura, I'm sorry, if I used to think he was arrogant, but after the battle 100 years ago, I know that he is one of the most hidden gods of death in the soul world, but unfortunately I can't open your mouth to remind you. Dong Xian wants to look a little ugly. Komamura Zojin is his confidant, but now he has become a god of death because of hatred and wants revenge. It is absolutely impossible to say it, but his character is like this. Now that he is still the captain of the Soul Society, he will strictly perform the duties of the captain, at least on the surface. This blindfold is useless. Not to mention that Kenpachi threw the blindfold away, the terrifying yellow spiritual pressure directly slowed down the attack of King Ming of the Black Rope Heavenly Wrath. He was right, his spiritual pressure was increasing sharply day by day. It has reached the limit of absorption and containment of the eye mask, and even if Zakugi's sword is thrown in 8 strokes, it will soon be unable to withstand the limit and explode. A Reiatsu like this can't even be compared to Master Aizen. Dongxian's expression changed, and Zengmu Zhaoba was far beyond his imagination. The left formation of the village is sure to die. It's over, Komamura Zojun, go be mad. Zaragi Kenpachi roared. The yellow Reiatsu covering him was like oil encountering flames, and it boiled violently, turning into a demon-faced Reiatsu. The body directly bites at the black rope and condemns King Ming. Bankai, Yan Mo Cricket. Now Dong Xian can only rely on his own Bankai to be effective. After Lu Chengkong destroyed Bankai, he was not as arrogant as before and thought his Bankai was almost invincible. Deprived of the 5 senses other than touch. I'm sorry I don't have time to play with you here. Let's fight with blood, red-eyed killer. That's right, Zaraki Kenpachi Shikai. This is the first time he has used his Shikai in battle in front of outsiders. If it was normal, he would never use Shikai, but instead used his original form of Zanpakudo, enjoy the fun of fighting. But now he doesn't have the time. He knows that although he can break this Yanmo cricket without Shikai, he will only be able to break it when the opponent attacks him, which is a waste of time. The yellow spiritual pressure on Zaraki Kenpachi turned blood red in an instant, making people horrified to look at it like blood, and a pair of eyes turned into a pair of blood red without a trace. Impurity pupils. Blood energy burst. A sea of blood like seawater suddenly erupted on Zanmu Janpachi's body, directly turning the entire space of Yanmo cricket into a sea of blood. Materialized after transformation. I found you. The sea of blood collapses the mountain. Zengmu Janpa shouted, his body bowed, and he rushed towards Dongxian like a tiger rushing for food. The speed was terrifying, as if he got a huge amount of blood in the blood sea with the blessing of the smashing mountain. It directly smashed to Dongxian Yao with the terrifying power of the collapsed mountain and a monstrous weather. Boom! The terrifying spiritual power fluctuations exploded at the moment when the blood sea collapsed and the mountain hit the ground. Just like the explosion of a nuclear bomb, the terrifying spiritual power formed a spiritual power storm and directly destroyed the entire space of Yanmo cricket. 510 Heian becomes blurred, and the sky debuts. It's really boring. Why are the opponents I encountered recently only running away? Zaragi Kenpachi said, standing in the middle of the smoke and dust, very unhappy. At the moment when Yanmo cricket's space collapsed, the seriously injured Toxian wanted to escape directly with Komamura Zojun, who was also badly injured. What's wrong with the captain? Ace Chuan Yuki looked at Kenpachi Zakugi, who was very annoyed there, and said, a little puzzled, obviously he couldn't see the 2 captains escape. The big wild wolf and the dead blind man escaped. You can take those little devils from this world, I'll go first. Zakugi Kenpachi immediately put away his dissatisfaction and explained with a sentence. He rushed directly to the execution ground of Junyang, who had already liberated the Double Death. Really, these trivial things are always left to me to handle. Although his mouth was so unhappy, his expression was not at all dissatisfied. Obviously, he also respected Kenpachi Zengaki very much. After all, on the 11th there are almost no people in the squad who don't worship Kenpachi Zakugi. Wow, the liberation power of 1,000,000 Zanpakudo, such a big fire bird. Halo, Lu Chengkong, why haven't you appeared as a bastard? Your brother-in-law is about to die. Zibo Heian's mouth widened as she looked at the double X that had been initially liberated and turned into a huge firebird in front of her, and she cried out in her heart. Execution. The old man Yamamoto ordered, but a pair of big hands quietly held down the crutches in his hands. Obviously, he was secretly preparing for battle. Damn it, little sister and Lu Chengkong, the bastard, forgot the time when my eldest brother and brother-in-law will be executed. It's miserable, I can only rely on myself at the critical moment. Fortunately, my little sister used Bengyu on me. I also saw that I have mastered the blur, or I will die. That's right, just in case old man Yamamoto had someone seal his death power, but don't forget that what he wants to use is not the power of death, but the blur that he learned recently. Blurry. Zibo Heian's right hand covered her head, and a mask appeared under the surprised eyes of the people below. A spiritual pressure different from the god of death carried an aura full of destruction and devouring desire from Zibo Heian's body. Emanated from the body. Come on, little bird. Zibo Heian's voice became extremely low after blurring, and even had a metallic taste. Isn't he sealed with the power of the god of death? What? Broken Bee said in surprise. This is not the power of the god of death. Could it be that he has defeated the virtual in his body? He has also mastered the power of the virtual, so it should be. The experienced old man Yamamoto immediately thought clearly. Kill Zibo Heian, the old man Yamamoto ordered. Yes, all the gods of death responded immediately. Don't forget that Heian can only use the power of the virtual, and all the abilities of the god of death can't be used, so they can only remain invincible in the face of Double X, and Double X as the time of liberation is not short, the power will become stronger and stronger. It can be said that if the original work hadn't been for Kyoraku Chunsui and Yukitaki Shuru to destroy the Double X, if time goes by, if Kurosaki Ichigo doesn't lose Bankai, it is likely to be killed by the Double S. I don't want to take care of it, but now I'm a big brother who can only use blur. It's too disrespectful to the old lady, so let me die for the old lady, the 88th of breaking the road. Flying Dragon strikes thief. Thunder Cannon. At the critical moment, Zibo Heian, the star, the moon, and the person whom Zibo Heian had been waiting for finally arrived, which made him have the urge to cry with joy. Bounding the way. 81. Breaking the air. Jingle Chunsui secretly said, Fuju seems that we don't need to stop the Double X, or at least it doesn't need to be beaten by the old man Yamamoto, but he still has to stand on the surface. Come out and use Break Empty. Is it finally here? Let the old man see how much you have grown in the past 60 years. The old man Yamamoto slowly turned into a super muscular man, and Lu-Ren Ruohuo was quietly liberated. When it started to burn, the Grim Reaper who was at the level of the vice captain would have slipped away long ago. If they didn't slip away, the Reiatsu of old man Yamamoto alone would have knocked them out. Hey, you'll know right away. Lu Chengkong also released the sky-filled frost and directly confronted Lu-Ren Ruohuo. The two terrifying spiritual pressures that suffocated the air kept biting up in the sky, and a series of rumbling sounds kept coming. It exploded in the air. The people who came were Lu Chengkong, Zibo Kong, Saifeng Yuan Yaiki, Kusaka Yakiryu, and of course Orihime Inoue, but she was completely handed over to Yakiryu and Yaiki to take care of her, otherwise he would be the one to take care of. Not to mention participating in the current strength, it would be very good not to be crushed to death by the spiritual pressure. In addition to worrying about her having an accident elsewhere, letting her come here is also to let Orihime experience high-end battles, so that she won't panic at any time in the future. Boom. Just as old man Yamamoto and Lu Chengkong started to confront each other, two powerful spiritual pressures suddenly came from the location of the Deadwood family. Yinji of Kuchiki, Shanghai of Kuchiki. Oops, let's move. The old man Yamamoto's expression changed slightly, the strength of the Zanpakuto in his hand suddenly increased, and the amazing speed of Shunbu turned him into a flash of light and met Lu Chengkong. The speed of slashing is so fast that many gods of death cannot see it at all. Lu Chengkong, you really want to do this, you know that this will make the Soul Society completely chaotic. The old man Yamamoto looked a little anxious, because he felt that the spiritual pressure of Deadwood Yinling was getting weaker and weaker. Hee, I said that the 46 rooms involved in this incident, as well as the nobles behind them are all going to die. As for the Kuimu family, let's not talk about me, just the grievances between the two parties before Shanghai are doomed that only one of them can survive. The Deadwood family will be completely removed from the Soul realm from today. Lu Chengkong said indifferently, he was not moved at all. On the other side, Ichigo Kurosaki and Gurutsusai also arrived. Seeing the figure of Rukia, he wanted to save him, but unfortunately, Byakuya Kuchiki stopped him. Obviously, Kuchiki Byakuya's ability to recover so quickly was entirely due to Kuchiki Yinling to ask Uno Hanaritsu to help, otherwise Kuchiki Byakuya would have died a long time ago with such a serious injury. Damn, it's okay, I'll be ashamed today. Ichigo Kurosaki saw that this man was Kuchiki Byakuya who defeated him. He thought about his strength and learned Bankai, and he also knew that he couldn't defeat him. There was no way this guy could save Rukia, so he didn't rush over, but concentrated on facing Kuchiki Byakuya. Scatter, Senbon Sakura. Byakuya Kuchiki didn't take Kurosaki Ichigo seriously at all, but it was a pity that he soon paid the price for his contempt for others. Crescent Moon Sky Chong. Kurosaki Ichigo has mastered Zanyu's only and strongest trick. The crescent-like slash directly tore the cherry blossoms that came in the face, leaving a scar on Kuchiki Byakuya's body. Kuchiki Byakuya's self-esteem was greatly trampled. After all, the kid who was killed by himself a few months ago and didn't even know how he was defeated actually injured himself, which made him feel bad that his grandfather was in danger, but there was an order from old man Yamamoto. Killing the calamity, can't let the criminals escape, and obeys the rules. He is the model of all the gods of death, and she always thinks that she must obey the rules to be the best god of death, so he can't help at all. Annoyed. 511 Old Man Yamamoto's Bankai. Impossible, it's just that you got the power of the god of death from an ordinary god of death in Rukia, how could you hurt me? Kuchiki Byakuya's calm tone showed anger, disbelief, and surprise. As I said, if Bankai is not applicable, I will never lose with the current you and me. At this time, Ichigo Kurosaki only had Byakuya Kuchiki in his heart. By defeating the Kuchiki Byakuya who stopped him in front of him, he couldn't take Rukia away. HMPH, young brat, since you made such a strong request, I will fulfill you, and you will not have a chance to regret it, Bankai Senbon Sakura Kujiyoshi. Kuchiki Byakuya knew that he had killed the boy in front of him, and the basic task was enough. It's done, he won't have anything to do here anymore, so he doesn't waste time anymore and does his best. Have you finally agreed to Bankai? Then I'll show you my Bankai too, Bankai Tien Suo Zanyu. Under Kuchiki Byakuya's unbelievable eyes, Kurosaki Ichigo also Bankai, and then the two fought again. Yi of Saifungyuan. Broken Bee seemed to have forgotten her mission and her responsibilities. Looking at this very familiar woman in front of her, although she didn't hate Yaiki as much as in the original book, her anger was inevitable. Why don't you take everything away from her? Can't you trust her? Smashed Bee. Saifungyuan Yi felt a little scalp numb, and the crushed bee, who was a bit lesbian and highly admired her. Of course Lu Chengkong said that she still didn't believe it, but when she saw the broken bee, it seemed like seeing the look in the eyes of a lover who had abandoned her. Saifungyuan Yaiki believed it. It was an unbelievable feeling to be so adored by a woman so zealously. Haha, Yi, I didn't expect you to be so charming. Little sister Broken Bee likes you, and so do you. Why didn't you take the family with you back then? Zibo Kong was schadenfreude. Shut up Kong. Saifungyuan Yi immediately pushed back with a word. This little girl completely forgot who was with her when she was in a bad mood. Is it because my strength can't help you, or you don't trust me? Broken Bee, a shikai, and then rushed towards Yaiki at a super fast speed, but it seems that the attack is very hot, but there is room for it. Trouble. If it was an enemy, Saifungyuan killed him early in the morning, but the Broken Bee in front of her was her follower, and she was a fanatical admirer, so much for not taking her away back then. S reaction, even if it was easy for her to kill the bee with her strength far exceeding the original, she was embarrassed to do so. Not to mention the series of battles at the Junyang execution ground, because these are secondary, and the key battle that really decides the outcome is Lu Chengkong and the old man Yamamoto standing above. The 4 combat skills of the God of Death, Kendo, White Strike, Shunpo, Ghost Road, you are not weaker than the old man at all, and even surpass the old man in Shunpo by a lot, you are really a genius. The old man Yamamoto looked at the God of Death in front of him. In the first battle, he seemed to be repelled. In fact, the gap between the two sides was still very large, but in the second battle, this little devil had already faintly surpassed himself. Hee, that's why I said, if you use Shikai to fight, it's difficult to decide the winner. It's Bankai, or I haven't seen your Bankai, old man Yamamoto, I think I should let you use Bankai now. Qualified. That's right, although the confrontation between the two just now was short, the old man Yamamoto who had the blessing of the Spirit King was very strong, surpassing the General Shinigami who had just broken the limit to gain powerful strength or a lot of emptiness, even because he existed for too long. His Reiatsu had accumulated too terrifyingly, so his attack power was huge. In addition, his Zanpakuto was originally the Ryurin Ruahuo, known as the strongest attack power. That's right, it takes too long to rely on Shikai to decide the winner. It's been so many years, I don't even remember how many years I haven't used Bankai. You are the first one to let me use Bankai in so many years. Yes, see clearly, this is the old man's Bankai. The old man Yamamoto burst out with a spiritual pressure that was burning like a flame, and this spiritual pressure was still rising at an alarming speed. Even a captain-level death god felt breathless. Rukia, Heian, Asanjing Renji and others were directly crushed to the point that they felt like their bones were about to shatter. The old man has gone crazy. Jingo Chunshui looked at the hat that had been blown off his head, and his body was covered in sweat. Obviously, they were still very hot from so far away. As for Kuchiki Byakuya and Kurosaki Ichigo, who were in the nearby fierce battle, they were directly blasted out by the violent flames. This is just the spiritual pressure released by the Bankai process, and it is still affected. If it is on the front, it may be this spirit the impact of the pressure seriously injured both of them. Halo, that old man is exaggerating a bit, why is it also Bankai? The difference is so big. Kurosaki Ichigo spat out the dust he accidentally ate in his mouth just now, looking at the sky that had completely changed. Seriously at Bankai, the color of the sky and the earth changed. At this time, the originally blue sky had turned into a fiery cloud, dark red. Looking at the Tiansuo Zanyu in his hand, it seemed that there was a big difference in style. This is the first time in my life that I have seen Genryujai-sama use Bankai. Shuru Yukitaki exclaimed, what a powerful flame-type Zanpakuto. Is this Mr. Yamamoto's Bankai? It's too strong. It's strange. The captain, like me, has reached the pinnacle of death before breaking the limit. Even if my spiritual pressure is not as good as his, who has accumulated countless years, but there is no reason why the gap is still that big. If he hadn't been hypnotized by me, I might have been killed by him. Aizen Yusuke, who had already cleaned up Hitsugaya Toshiro, took Tosenyao and Ichimaru Jin, who were all wounded but not in serious condition, hiding while watching the battle between Lu Chenggong and the old man Yamamoto. I don't know why I feel that maybe a lot of things will happen today that are beyond my expectations. In fact, although Aizen's Kyoka Shueyu and Shanghai's Mujung abilities are powerful, they are very single-clothed from beginning to end, and they have great restrictions. For example, Aizen's Kyoka Shueyu, all his abilities are based on the premise of 4 people being hypnotized. And the deeper the hypnosis, the greater the ability. For those who have not been hypnotized, or escaped hypnosis and cannot be hypnotized, it is simply tasteless. What kind of power can be said? Shanghai's village is actually similar. In the face of Ku has no Zanpakuto. How to do? The more terrifying the ability often looks, the more difficult it is to crack the momentum, and sometimes the more tasteless. 512 Bankai vs Bankai. No wonder Aizen used the power of Bengyu to forcibly break the limit, and got the power of Bengyu to continuously strengthen it so many times that he would not dare to fight you head-on, even if he just realized that he had broken the limit for a long time, or a god of death. Shu, under normal circumstances, he will not be your old man Yamamoto's opponent, except for extremely individual perverts like Uno Hanalai. Lu Chenggong was right, except for a few perverted super terrifying gods of death or Shu. Normally he would not be the opponent of old man Yamamoto when he just broke the limit. Of course, cultivating after breaking the limit will of course be stronger than the old man Yamamoto who did not break the limit but was blessed by the Spirit King. He was just talking about the death or emptiness when the limit was just broken, just like the man who used Bengyu to forcibly break the limit in the original book. Indigo die. At that time, Aizen, who had only forcibly broken the limit for a short time, was sure to lose the battle against the old man Yamamoto, but if he wanted to kill Aizen, the strength of the old man Yamamoto was not enough, and he could defeat Aizen. Bengyu brought him super speed regeneration, can be said to be one of Aizen's biggest reliances. After all, you can't kill me, and it is very easy to fight against Aizen for a long time. After all, old man Yamamoto is indeed old, and he is only supported by the blessing of the Spirit King, but Aizen does not dare to push old man Yamamoto too much. He is obviously worried if the old man Yamamoto is done, he may die too. Bankai 8 Yantu Orochi. The majestic and oppressive voice of old man Yamamoto sounded in the sky above the soul realm. The voice that seemed to be spiritual was very loud and echoed in the sky above the soul realm. Almost the entire jingling court was the god of death. All heard the voice of old man Yamamoto. The monstrous flames seemed to be burning directly above the entire Junyang execution ground, and the air seemed to be burned to the extreme, and everything in the vicinity except Lu Chengkong and the old man Yamamoto was burnt out. Suddenly, a very strange roar sounded from the air, and the sound was so loud that the air fluctuated in circles, as if the nearby air could not bear the devastation of such a strange roar and began to mourn. Orochi formed entirely of flames. The appearance of the eighth flame-headed Orochi made Lu Chengkong's heart angry. Sense of crisis. Since you have used Bankai, old man Yamamoto, I'm embarrassed to hide it anymore. By the way, I forgot to tell you, old man Yamamoto. The last time I fought with you, my Bankai was incomplete. Today I will let you see me. The real Bankai. Quote. Who had seen Lu Chengkong's Bankai were all surprised. God, their hearts were overwhelmed. This is not the complete Bankai, so how terrible would it be if it were complete? Aizen even stared at Lu Chengkong with widened eyes, for fear of missing a single bit. Bankai. Abandoning God and Buddha, Function howled, Fengmo came out. Lu Chengkong slowly threw out Bankai's words. The flames that filled the sky were immediately reopened, and he couldn't get close to Lu Chengkong in a radius of 20 meters, making people suffocated. The storm appeared out of thin air. Not only did not let the flame wind make the fire more violent, but it blew all the flames away. Bankai's appearance has not changed in the slightest. It is still the magic way, but the breath on his body is more invisible and elusive, as if he is clearly standing in front of you, but it gives you a feeling of being far away. Old man Yamamoto, are you ready? Lu Chengkong didn't see any movement from him after he finished speaking. He had already appeared behind old man Yamamoto, with the magic knife in his hand, carrying the aura of being the only one in the world, and in an instant he used 3 magic tricks in a row. Knife. Magic rage. The devil is rampant. Magic slaughter. One knife after another, like an antelope with its horns hanging on its horns. There is nothing to be found at all, so the old man Yamamoto can only be beaten and passively defended for a while, and the people below are stunned for a while. Flaming snake roars. After all, old man Yamamoto is old man Yamamoto. Thousands of years of terrifying combat experience made him quickly find an opportunity and start to attack others, although he was startled by Lu Chengkong's strange and invisible movement speed. With a big jump, he was preempted by him, but the old man Yamamoto was an easy man. Orochi's 8 snake heads covering old man Yamamoto opened their mouths at the same time, aiming at Lu Chengkong and shooting out 8 firelights with a temperature high enough to burn the space and twist it. Catch the wind and catch the shadow. Lu Chengkong grinned Isho. His expression did not change in the slightest. Such an attack is indeed extremely powerful. It is indeed the most powerful Zanpakudo, but no matter how powerful an attack is, it is not useless if it fails to hit. When the 8 firelights swept across Lu Chengkong directly, the old man Yamamoto was horrified to find that Lu Chengkong had no practical shunpo at all, but his speed was as fast as a shooting star, easily dodging his own attack. The devil is born in the sky. The battle will not stop at all because of old man Yamamoto. Knowing that old man Yamamoto's Lu Ren Ruahuo is best at large-scale attacks, Lu Chengkong has always maintained a short distance, relying on himself to be extremely fast. The speed of the attack made the old man Yamamoto look forward and backward. After all, if he was not careful, he could easily hurt himself, and he had to reduce the range of his attack when he got there. Burn the earth. Seeing that it was released, it instantly turned into an incomparably huge magic knife. The old man Yamamoto struck back, and the monstrous flames seemed to set the whole earth on fire, forcibly blocking the huge magic knife. I'm sorry, I'm behind you, the grass is strong in the wind. At the same time, Lu Chengkong attacked the back of the old man Yamamoto at an extremely fast speed. The old man Yamamoto kicked out and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. No, it's been many years. It's the first time I've seen the captain get hurt, and he vomited blood. It's still in Bankai's situation. Jingle Chunchui didn't call the old man anymore, but the captain. Okay, very good. I didn't expect that the old man would be injured by you after many years. Although old man Yamamoto's voice was calm, the anger contained in it could be heard by an idiot, but I don't know if old man Yamamoto went out today. Without looking at Huang Li, just when he prepared a powerful trick to attack Lu Chengkong, Hu Qianyan's voice suddenly sounded. The captains and vice-captains of the 13th Division of the Guardian. Although the battle just now has been talked about for so long, it is actually not outdated for a very short time. It's just such a wonderful and shocking battle, plus here everyone basically has their own opponents, so they all ignore that time has not passed much. Aizen, he didn't die. It's all about him. Jingle Chunchui suddenly realized that it was all like this. The things that had been ignored before and some things that could not be understood were all figured out. When I heard such news, I would say that the most uncomfortable person was the old man Yamamoto, because he was going to release a big trick, but the voice of Toru Yuyan and what he said made the offensive of the old man Yamamoto slow down. Feeling very uncomfortable. 513. Haha, old man Yamamoto, do you want us to fight now? I think that Aizen is hiding and watching our battle or just want to see how far we are. And if it's too bad, sneak attack to kill them both in seconds. 1, or if we both lose, he will come out and take advantage. Quote. Lu Chengkong laughed loudly. He had already understood the devil's heart. In addition to his years of practice, he had completely controlled the devil's sword. Although there was still no emotion in his eyes, his movements and expressions were the same as before he entered Bankai. No difference. Even so, there are no sins for those who traveled through disasters, but you, challenge the entire corpse and soul world. No matter what, you can't get rid of this sin. At this time, the old man Yamamoto seemed to be a person who was absolutely righteous and absolutely respected the rules of the weak. Directly speaking, it is super rigid. Hee, it's a rigid old man, but I think it's better for you to perceive the situation at the Deadwood's house. Lu Chengkong smiled indifferently, and there was a hint of banter in his plain tone. What's the matter? It's all gone. The old man Yamamoto's expression changed slightly. Just now, he concentrated on fighting Lu Chengkong, and he still had time to perceive the situation of Kuchiki's house. Now, he found that Kuchiki Yinling's spiritual pressure had disappeared. Shanghai strikes really fast, Lu Chengkong said. Hey, there's really no room for maneuver now. Even if I don't make a move, someone will. The old man Yamamoto sighed complicatedly. Do you mean Team Zero? Lu Chengkong seemed to know what Yamamoto Lauto was thinking. How did you know? This is a big secret. Although many captains in the Soul Society know the news of Team Zero, no one knows whether they really own it or not. Why does Lu Chengkong know about it? And it looked like he had guessed early in the morning that Team Zero would come. Although I don't know how you know about Team Zero, but now that you know about Team Zero, do you know that one of the members of the Kuchiki family was in Team Zero, and Kuchiki Shanghai killed him? Kuchiki Yinling will definitely send a notification to the god of death in Team Zero before he dies, said the old man Yamamoto. One of the purposes of my visit to Soul Society this time is to get to know Team Zero. I have also guessed that the reason why the Deadwood family is the first of the 4 major families, and the reason why the outside world is said to have the closest relationship with the Spirit King is that because there are members of their family in the Zero Team. Now it seems that my guess is correct. Liu Changkong's words made old man Yamamoto completely speechless. Others were both respectful and afraid of Team Zero, and only the guy in front of him would do this. Changkong, what about the powerful death god you said? Why haven't you come yet? Don't hide that, Kid Aizen. Do you want me to find you myself? Lu Kai Zhengmujanba was finally not late this time. Come after arriving at the execution ground of Zhenyang, the first sentence he said was to make all the gods of death speechless. I don't like the game of cat and mouse, but that doesn't mean I won't do it. Zakagi Kenpachi glanced around and found that Aizen Sosuke still refused to come out. It turned into a huge yellow slash and slashed to a position behind. Bounding the way number 81, breaking the sky. Aizen's voice really appeared. A huge wall blocked Kenpachi's slash. Aizen Soyusuke and Toxian Yao, Ichimaru Jin, who were hidden on the side, the three of them all came out, but Aizen flashed a hint of fear when she looked at Zengi Kenpachi. Obviously, she already knew from Dongxian Yao that Zanaki Kenpachi would meet Shikai. Originally, in his opinion, this soul realm was just a few people who were not completely controlled by him, and the Zanpakuto who would not be able to liberate Zanpakuto was among them, because he had secretly probed into Zanpaku Kenpachi in the past 60 years. Strength, it's a pity that every exploration is more surprising every time, because he can't detect the strength of Zakagi Kenpachi at all, which shows that the opponent's strength is either stronger than himself, or it is almost the same as himself. That's still without the release of Zanpakuto. Now I know that this Zanpakuto who is out of his control will actually release Zanpakuto, and his ability is also surprisingly strange. How could he not be more afraid? Because he had such an idea many years ago. Zanpakuto who can't liberate Zanpakuto can stand at the top of the soul world, if he learns to liberate Zanpakuto. Word is definitely one of his number one enemies. Are you willing to come out? With a happy expression on his face, Zakagi Kenpachi made a sudden step and shot out an electric shot, crossing the distance between the two. The way to break the road is the black coffin. Aizen Sengyusuke's face remained unchanged, his right hand was raised, black light flashed out, and at the same time a black cube trapped Zengi Kenpachi. Ha! Just when thousands of shadow blades were inserted outside, causing Kenpachi to be stabbed by thousands of swords, there was a beast-like roar from the black cube. One after another, yellow rays of light came out from the black cube, and with a click sound, the black coffin was forcibly blasted by Zengi Kenpachi with his terrifying spiritual pressure. Oh, when did you actually give up singing and use number 90, but it doesn't seem to be of any use to him. Ichimaru Jin said in an exaggerated tone, and at the end, there was a faint sarcasm in his voice, as if to say that you still a confident look in control of everything, why doesn't it seem like you said it now? HMPH, let's break it. The glass-like shattering sound suddenly sounded, and the white light flashed, and a triumphant smile appeared on the corner of Aizen's mouth. After being hypnotized, everything was solved. Haha, I don't have to rely on the five senses when I fight, is hypnosis. Is it useful? Let's fight with blood. Red-eyed killer. Zanpakutaki sneered. The Zanpakuto in his hand did not change in the slightest, and the sea of blood was once again. Appear. Scarlet cross slash. Two blood-red slashes appeared out of thin air along with ripples in the air, forming a cross shape, but the target of the attack was not Aizen standing in front of him, but the back. Boom. A strange scene appeared. In Zergi Kenpachi's view, Aizen Sosuke was still standing in front of him, but behind him was another Aizen Sosuke who was slashed and blown away by a bloody cross. How is that possible? Jinghua Shuiyu's hypnosis is absolutely perfect. You can be completely hypnotized by watching it once. How could you possibly find me? After Aizen's voice, there was a strong surprise and a hint of panic. Jinghua Shuiyu was his biggest reliance, and it has always been unfavorable. Anyone who is hypnotized, even the captain, can't find his existence, and can't crack it. How could it be cracked by Zaraki Kenpachi? 514 Kill Shiro Ichigo. As I said, I don't have to use the five senses when I fight. Zaragi Kenpachi showed a grim smile, looking at Aizen Soyusuke in front of him. I see, is this one of your Zanpakuto abilities? But since that's the case, I can't let you live. That's right, he will not let anyone who can make him useless, even if his subordinate Dong Xian wants him. He will put something in his body, as long as he has a little bit of dissent, Lanyan can ask for it. Took his life. Really, if you have the ability, I don't mind. It would be better if you could kill me at one time, 100 times over. Zakagi Kenpachi didn't take death seriously at all. Those extremely irresponsible words left Kurosaki Ichigo speechless. Lord Aizen, now is not the time to fight. Dongxian wanted to see the undisguised murderous intent in Aizen's eyes, worried that he had forgotten the most important purpose and couldn't help but remind him. I'm so sorry, but I almost broke a big deal. Aizen hesitated for a while and finally gave up. With a flash, she put on a strange glove and rushed towards Rukia. What are you going to do? Kurosaki Ichigo's face sank. After Bankai, his speed was his best ability, and he pulled out several afterimages to affect Aizen Sosuke. Young man, you have helped me a lot, but now it also means that you have no use value. Lan Ran's face remained unchanged, showing a gentle smile that has remained unchanged for thousands of years. At the same time, Yu pressed his right hand in front of Kurosaki Ichigo and said under the gaze of his shrunken pupils. The 63 Thunder Roar Cannon. The explosion with thunder and lightning completely hit Ichigo Kurosaki at such a close distance. The strong explosion directly blew the earth apart, and the smoke and dust in the sky knocked Kurosaki away. Ichigo's figure was obscured, making it impossible to see his life and death clearly. Bangyu. Aizen Soyusuke crossed his right hand across, directly through Rukia's body and took out the Bangyu he dreamed of. A smug smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Aizen, it seems too early to laugh now, it's raining and windy. Lu Chengkong's voice sounded behind Aizen Soyusuke, making his face change greatly, because he couldn't feel when Lu Chengkong came behind himself. That is to say, if Lu Chengkong wanted to assassinate him, he would most likely kill him in one hit. As soon as the idea appeared, he immediately didn't believe it. He couldn't accept that there was such a big gap between him and this man, but at this time, he could no longer think about it. Lu Chengkong kicked out his feet, his legs poured like a storm, his legs were violently like a gust of wind, and he kicked Aizen's back with a gust of wind. Seeing him vomiting blood, most of his clothes shattered, he looks like a beggar. Whereas he who dominated everything and looked like a god when the original book left the Soul Realm. Maybe Lu Chengkong is really his nemesis, right? The plan that Aizen thought was perfect would become full of loopholes when it encounters Lu Chengkong, and in the end, he would suffer. Jia, thank you so much, the god of death called Aizen. Without you, I really wouldn't have come out so easily. Just when Aizen Shenshin was about to be caught by Dongxian, Ichigo Kurosaki's voice came from behind Yanshin, but at this time his voice was very strange, a little sharp, and there was no calm before. The tightness is just violent, and the killing is also arrogant and arrogant. Bai Yihu, I didn't expect it to come out like this now. Lu Chengkong said in his heart, his expression did not change at all. The original Bai Yihu is indeed very strong, and every time he appears, it has an overwhelming advantage. Nice plug-in. But in front of him, it is not very powerful. At best, it is just a big void of Worsted, and the power of Kurosaki Ichigo can indeed exert the strength of Worsted in the later period, but even if Stark's into the self many years ago had no power to fight back, let alone the self now. Lu Chengkong, haha, I've seen you unhappy for a long time. Ichigo is actually afraid of you. Haha, what should I be afraid of? Ichigo you. Just see how Bankai is used, the crescent moon rushes to the sky. Bai Yihu, who was wearing a half mask, laughed wildly, and Huling Tejai, who was on the side, turned his head a little unbearably. He couldn't bear it any longer. But no matter what, Shirai Ichigo's strength is indeed far more than Kurosaki Ichigo, and there are ripples in the air where a series of black crescent moons appear. Wang Shu's flash. Lu Chengkong shook his head and glanced at Bai Yihu disdainfully. A black-red sphere with jagged rays of light appeared in the center of his palm, exuding bursts of destruction and astonishing aura. In this sphere the moment it appeared, it shot out at Bai Yihu. In an instant, it collided with more than a dozen black crescent moons. Strangely, there was no sound of spiritual power colliding, because the flash of Lu Chengkong's Wangshu directly annihilated these crescent moons at the moment of contact with the black crescent moons. And then Wangshu's flash didn't stop at all and hit him directly under Bai Yihu's unbelievable gaze. Boom! The terrifying power directly destroyed the entire Moro execution ground, that is, the entire hill. Fortunately, everyone present was able to fly. The only one who couldn't, Orihime Inoue, was also picked up by Yaiki, and there was no case of falling to his death. However, there was also one person who fell, and that was Bai Yihu, who was knocked unconscious by Wangshu's flash. Bai Yihu was severely injured and sent back to the terrifying Wangshu's flash at the instant of Wangshu's flash. The spiritual world was restored, and Kurosaki Ichigo also recovered. But it was useless. The trauma to his body made him comatose again when he was awake, and he fell down. Fortunately, the nearby Chadu Taihu caught him, otherwise he would have fallen from such a serious injury. Likely to fall to death. Deadwood Shanghai, you be damned, the final scene of the White Emperor Sword. It's too late to say that, although so much has been said, in fact, no more than 10 seconds have passed. Just now, Kuchiki Byakuya fell into a sluggishness due to the disappearance of Kuchiki Silver Bell Reiatsu. After about 10 seconds, when he woke up from sadness, he realized that Kuchiki Mitsuha appeared and didn't know when he had appeared. Where would he care about Kurosaki Ichigo, who was already half dead? Roared, like the roar of a wounded beast. It's just right for me to bring it to the door. It's you who are looking for you. Your two grandfathers and grandsons treat Yi Ling, who is so blood-related to you, in such a way. Whisper, Mujung. Kuchiki wanted and looked at Kuchiki Byakuya, who was rushing towards him surrounded by bird wings formed by white spiritual pressure. He was not polite. The biggest purpose of his coming to Soul Realm was revenge, although Yi Ling was killed by Lu Chengkong in the end. However, the anger and hatred in the heart of the Deadwood Shanghai did not decrease but increased. 515 Aizen who escaped in embarrassment. With the call of the Deadwood Shanghai, Muramasa's figure flickered out, and a mocking smile appeared on the corner of Bai Dijian's mouth, which was coming towards him. Speaking of which, he and Senbon Sakura were old rivals, and it was not the first time. Take control of Senbon Sakura. It's useless. Kuchiki Kyukawa shook his head and said softly. As soon as his voice fell, Muramasa's hands shot out countless black lines, which were tied directly to Kuchiki Byakuya's Zanpakuto blade. It's not the first time you have been defeated by such a master, but many times. What's the use of such a master coming, and it will keep you humiliated. Muramasa's voice was flat, but it had an extremely strange appeal to Zanpakuto, causing the gorgeous White Emperor Sword Vivi to pause for a moment, then disappear directly, and Senbon Sakura directly materialized. I'm fed up with a useless master like you. Even a god of death who has gained power for more than 3 months can't beat so much time. Instead of letting a master like me and you continue to accept failure, I'd rather die. White Emperor Sword. Under the terrified eyes of Kuchiki Byakuya, the warrior wearing the ghost head mask actually used his strongest trick, the White Emperor Sword. Under the shock of the brief death, coupled with the huge pressure brought by the White Emperor Sword, when he came to his senses, it was too late to dodge, and the extremely fast and powerful White Emperor Sword pierced through his body. I didn't expect it to end like this. I expected this day to come soon, but I didn't expect Bai Zai to die in the hands of his Zanpakuto. Siphon Yuan Yi looked at him with complicated eyes. Kuchiki Byakuya, whose face was full of disbelief but had died, didn't know what it was like. After all, she was a playmate when she was a child. Although she was the object of her own teasing, she quickly put away such an extension, took a gentle glance and looked at herself with concerned eyes, not knowing when she would appear beside her. Lu Chengkong, Zanyan Isho, signaled that he was fine. Yi knew that Lu Chengkong had missed several opportunities to kill Kuchiki Byakuya because of herself. She was an extremely smart woman, she knew what to do, and she was mentally prepared early in the morning. What Lu Chengkong did, it also moved her. In addition, Kuchiki Byakuya did not die in the hands of Lu Chengkong, but in the hands of Kuchiki Shanghai, who was already absolutely immortal on both sides. Frankly speaking, when Yi knew what Kuchiki's family did to Yiling, she was completely disappointed and even angry. At that time, she had the idea of slaughtering the Kuchiki family. So she recovered quickly. Maybe this is the best ending. After all, at this time, either the death of the Deadwood family or the death of Lu Chengkong, her Sifeng Night, even if she is smashed to pieces, even if thousands of people refer to it, she will definitely not allow Lu Chengkong to do anything. If Lu Chengkong is likely to be killed and his strength is not as good as Kuchiki Byakuya, even if she doesn't want to, she will definitely stand up and kill Kuchiki Byakuya. After all, Lu Chengkong cannot kill Kuchiki Byakuya many times. Yi, who dares to love, dare to hate, and dare to act, is deeply moved by his heart. How could she live up to her lover? When she decided to pursue her back then, she had already made all preparations. All Lu Chengkong's enemies were her Sifeng Yi's enemies. However, Lu Chengkong would not let Yi take action against Kuchiki Byakuya. Otherwise, Sifeng Yi might have shot Kuchiki Byakuya long ago, but it is no longer needed. Kuchiki's family is unlikely to have a chance to hurt Lu Chengkong. Now Kuchiki Yinling and Kuchiki Byakuya have left completely out of this world. It's all dead. It was too late for old man Yamamoto to stop him. After all, there were several gods of death on the same level as him. The moment he made his move, Mako Hirako stopped him, and Mako Hirako's strength surprised him. Incomparable, has become so powerful. Aizen, it's time for you to repay what you owe you. Hirako Mako didn't need to stop old man Yamamoto after seeing Kuchiki Byakuya's death, but glared at Aizen, just when she thought about Shikai and Aizen during the fight. Aizen smiled proudly. I'm sorry, the time is up, it really surprised me. You have also reached the peak of the god of death. It's a pity that you didn't destroy it, and there is another big enemy, but it doesn't matter, but after I completely integrate the power of Bengyu, I will be the real one. God. Lan Ran smiled, and the sky shot down 3 rays of light, but just before the rays of light were about to touch him, he only felt a pain in his chest, and a terrifying force seemed to hit him directly. In the internal organs, Aizen, who had already suffered a lot of trauma, vomited blood again gloriously. It was too wasteful. If you go to sell blood, you can sell a lot of money. Let's go. Aizen shouted, and suddenly woke up. He was a little complacent. Where did he look down on all beings in the original book? But he jumped up like a lost dog and rushed into the anti-membrane. Making sure he was safe after that, he turned his head to see who attacked him just now. What made him speechless was that it was none other than Kaolu Bachinliu sitting on Lu Chengkong's shoulders who attacked him and made his injury worse. She could hang several oil bottles in her mouth. Obviously she was very unhappy that Aizen had escaped. Bad boy, what are you doing so fast? Little glasses, I almost killed you. I have to say that Bachinliu is the only person who can rival Orihime Inoue when it comes to anger. Her words made everyone sweat. God, wouldn't it be better for people not to run and let you kill? Listening to your tone, it seems that killing Aizen is a very simple matter. Her words made Aizen vomit blood again in depression. It seems that after going to the virtual circle, he must not be as arrogant as the original and become the master of the virtual night palace. But to rest for a while. At this time, Aizen was so embarrassed. How could he dare to be so arrogant and unrestrained as in the original book and leave a bunch of rhetoric, but instead rushed into the virtual circle anxiously, as if he was afraid that the film would not be able to protect him. Aizen's matter has been initially resolved, so what about the rest? Kuchiki Shanghai looked at Lu Chengkong, as if he had made up his mind. Don't ask me. I don't dare to say anything when looking at old man Yamamoto's eyes that seem to be eating me. Lu Chengkong smiled, but after seeing old man Yamamoto's face as black as a frying pan, he didn't dare to say anything. Stimulate him again. HMPH, do you really think it's over? A very unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in the sky. It wasn't Old Man Yamamoto, because at this time Old Man Yamamoto was also surprised by Vivi and looked at the director of the voice, a man dressed in rotten wood. The middle-aged man in the family costume did not know when he appeared in the sky and looked at the deadwood Shanghai with murderous eyes. 516 Team 0 debuts. Team 0, Kuchiki Jinling. The Old Man Yamamoto revealed the identity of the person who came. Hearing that he was the identity of Team 0, Kenpachi immediately showed a bloodthirsty smile. He already understood Lu Chengkong. What is the battle you are talking about? If you guessed correctly, this so-called Zero team member is his opponent. I didn't expect that the 1,000-year-old Kuchiki family would be killed by your humble commoners. Well, very good. As Kuchiki Jinling's angry voice sounded, his body began to emit a burst of air that made the surrounding air appear. The ripples of spiritual pressure clearly indicate that the anger in the heart of the director of this spiritual pressure has reached its limit. Old Man Yamamoto, what generation is this guy from the Kuchiki family? Lu Chengkong asked curiously. The father of Kuchiki Yinling. The Old Man Yamamoto didn't hide it. After all, he was much older than Kuchiki Jinling. No, he's the father of that old guy. Why does he look more like a father than a son? Hiroko Mako said with a surprised expression. Are you an idiot? The strength of the god of death represents the lifespan of the god of death. The stronger the strength, the longer he lives, and the longer he stays young. Zibo Kong looked at him with eyes like an idiot. Hiroko Mako, so Hiroko Mako almost couldn't help but want to find a cave to burrow into. Captain Yamamoto, it seems that you have been sitting for too long, and you have caused such a big thing to happen in the Soul Society. Kuchiki Jinling looked at the Old Man Yamamoto and said slightly sarcastically. If you can face so many gods of death by yourself and survive, then teach me a lesson. Although Old Man Yamamoto is not a member of the Zero Division, his identity as the captain is not much worse than that of the general Zero Division members, even it should be a little higher. After all, he is the only god of death blessed by the Tao Spirit King. If he can break the limit, coupled with the powerful ability blessed by the Spirit King, his strength is absolutely awesome. There's another god of death that breaks the limit. Kuchiki Jinling's face flashed a nuisance. Obviously, it was the first time he had been refuted in such a tone since he became a member of Team Zero, and he was still in the corpse soul. The god of death in the world, but when his eyes swept across Lu Chengkong, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he couldn't help exclaiming. How is that possible? There's one more. She's still a little girl. There are as many as 4 who have reached the pinnacle of death gods. When did the soul world have so many powerful death gods? Kuchiki Jinling's complexion has turned dark. If faced with so many powerful gods of death, he promises that he can't die any longer. The ones who have reached the peak are Hiroko Mako, Kuchiki Shanghai, Zakagi Kenpachi and finally none. Sells Yoichi in Sefenjin, who protects Orihime Inoue from the mountains and the water. When looking at the Old Man Yamamoto, a trace of jealousy flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he thought that the Old Man Yamamoto had survived under the siege of so many people by his own strength, but he didn't know that a Lu Chengkong made the Old Man Yamamoto utterly devastated, but that's why he was jealous of Old Man Yamamoto. A god of death who didn't break the limit was actually so powerful. As a member of Team Zero, of course he knew that the Spirit King blessed this stuff. Haha, this guy is much stronger than Lan Ran, alright, he's mine. As if afraid that someone else would snatch him, Zanpakuto took out his Zanpakuto red-eyed killer Luo and rushed towards Kuchiki Jinling first. Bold, Kuchiki Yinling shouted loudly, before a god of death who didn't break the limit dared to swing a knife at him. In an instant, he had already judged the god of death for the god of death of the 13th division of the Guardian. In his eyes, he is not only a noble family of the 4 major families, but also a member of the incomparably honorable Team Zero. Not to mention killing a captain, even killing all the captains is nothing. Captain Yamamoto, are these people involved in the rebellion of the Soul Society? Kuchiki Jinling may be afraid of the strength of the Old Man Yamamoto, and he has lost his previous presumptuousness, and asked in a slow tone. Indeed. In this regard, the old man Yamamoto did not raise the bar with Kuchiki Jinling, because he knew that Kuchiki Jinling was planning to join forces with him, but he was arrogant and self-sufficient. If that's the case, then kill all these rebellious death gods. They have already affected the balance of the soul world. Kuchiki Jinling immediately pulled the righteousness to himself, with a look of incomparable righteousness. Said, making Zibo Kong disdainful. Old Yamamoto, let's continue our battle just now. Let's separate the winners and losers today and catch the wind. Lu Chengkong turned into a meteor, his body disappeared in place like an invisible wind, and appeared in the old man Yamamoto almost instantly. Above, the magic knife slashed from top to bottom. The magic knife is broken. Hoyan meteorite. The old man Yamamoto was ready for the fight early in the morning, so the moment Lu Chengkong made his move, he prepared his ultimate move, a huge meteorite with a surface like an asteroid covered with hot flames. It slammed into Lu Chengkong's sword light. Boom! As if an atomic bomb exploded, a dazzling light burst out and illuminated the entire soul world, and the terrifying spiritual power fluctuations caused the space in the center of the explosion to be distorted. Magic steps on the 7 stars. Lu Chengkong turned a blind eye, and his movements as fast as meteors and shadowless continued to appear, very elegant and completely incomprehensible. It will appear strangely behind you in less than a second, and no matter how locked it is, you will not be able to capture Lu Chengkong's location. It is even more impossible to judge what Lu Chengkong wants to do next. It can be said that the initiative is in Lu Chengkong's hands. He can completely preempt and sweep thousands of troops, while the old man Yamamoto can only be beaten passively, looking for opportunities to attack later. The flaming snake is possessed. The old man Yamamoto's expression did not change. He had obviously thought of a way to attack Lu Chengkong's extremely fast and terrifying melee attack. Surrounded, the terrifying flames that can burn everything directly separated Lu Chengkong, slowing Lu Chengkong's violent offensive. Flame Snake Riot. The old man Yamamoto's attack came at the same time as Lu Chengkong's offensive slowed down, and the 8 flaming tongues seemed to go mad, like a snake coming out of a hole, and the lightning and flint directly bit Lu Chengkong at the same time. The teeth made of flames, and the terrifying temperature, once they are planted, let alone whether they will be bitten in half by a huge force, the erosion of the flames alone is terrifying enough. The group of demons dances wildly. Lu Chengkong's face changed slightly, but he didn't dodge, instead he retreated. The magic knife pulled out a wonderful trajectory in midair, blooming 1,000-meter-long black-red sword light and slashed directly towards it. The 8 snake heads were directly smashed by a knife with shocking power, but the old man Yamamoto showed a smile instead of being angry. 517 defeated old man Yamamoto. Something wrong. Lu Chengkong instinctively felt that something was wrong. Sure enough, the 8 snake heads in the sea of fire regrouped at the moment of destruction, and the power seemed to be even stronger, biting at Lu Chengkong at a faster speed than before. There are 2 types of demons dancing. The first type is to attack with a magic knife, and the second type is to use legs. Lu Chengkong stepped down a little bit, as if he could do the avatar technique, and pulled out dozens of them that looked like real people. The afterimage, the legs swayed, and the leg strength kicked the old man Yamamoto with a demonic energy that disturbed the mind. Such intensive leg work made the god of death below feel the shadows of the legs flying around, confusing people's minds. As the party involved in the next move, the old man Yamamoto felt even more dizzy, obviously being eroded by demonic energy. The flaming snake is raging, and the flames are burning the sky. Old man Yamamoto felt the threat, and he bit the tip of his tongue, forcing himself to concentrate. Under the control of old man Yamamoto, the sea of crimson flames all poured into the 8 flames in the center. On Orochi's body, the 8th-flamed head Orochi, who was originally tall and incomparably tall, looked like a murderer. Orochi turned into a flaming Zanpakuto blade, and with the swing of the old man Yamamoto, a flaming blade with a temperature high enough to burn the sky bloomed. The final form, Blood Blade Magic Art. Lu Chengkong wiped the blade of the magic knife with his left hand, blood sputtered out, Lin's eye on the magic knife, making the magic energy on the magic knife even more intense, as if condensed to the point where it was about to be condensed at the point of qualitative change. When Lu Chenggong swung the magic sword around in front of him, a huge amount of demonic energy was injected into the magic sword, causing the magic sword to make a terrifying cry of ghosts and wolves. Come on, old man Yamamoto. Lu Chenggong held the handle of the magic knife with his backhand. Instead of slashing straight and horizontally, he slashed with his right hand to the left. The like magic power is released like a real magnified version of the magic knife, which has exceeded the limit of the sword and reached the level of the sword. In fact, this is just an upgraded version of Daomeng, formed by Dao Gang, but it is too real, and it looks a bit lifelike. The second trick is to be busy at the beginning, and the last one is the strongest sword gang, which is the strongest blood blade magic art that combines all the 7 magic knives. The huge fire knives and the magic knives were intertwined under the gazes of almost everyone in the air. The extremely sharp and ear-piercing sound resounded through the heavens and the earth, and ripples began to appear in the nearby space. In the end, with the constant confrontation of the ultimate moves and the fluctuation of the spiritual power emanated from the nearby death gods who had been far away had to continue to retreat, lest they would be unfortunately killed by the aftermath of the 2 terrifying tricks leaked. The devil's energy will not stop, the devil's strength will not stop, the blood blade will attack the enemy until death. Lu Chenggong saw that the last magic knife he released was still in a stalemate. He didn't want the situation to change. The spiritual pressure also has a crazy injection of magic energy. With the blessing of the master, the magic knife doesn't seem to want to be ashamed. It seemed to vibrate sporadically, and the magic knife that was stalemate immediately burst into 100 meters of light, and with a click, it directly cut off the fire knife released by the old man Yamamoto, and the remaining power slammed the old man Yamamoto from the air. Down. Old man Yamamoto, lie down for me, the kamikaze howls. Lu Chenggong seemed to have transformed into the god of the wind who controls all the wind elements in the world. He swept his right leg towards the old man Yamamoto, and a gust of wind whistled suddenly. A kamikaze containing endless anger directly tore through the void and hit the sky in an instant. It was falling. He had just resolved the residual magic power of the blood blade magic art, and he was unable to dodge at all. Beyond all the whirlwinds in the mortal world, it seems that the divine wind that can only be used by the gods hits him. Poochie. The old man Yamamoto spit out a mouthful of blood in the sky, fluttering in the wind like a dropped kite, surrounded by function and wreaking havoc. The whole person that the old man Yamamoto fell from the air looked like a blood man. Fortunately, the 2 of them had been fighting at high altitude, otherwise Jingling Court would have been destroyed by the aftermath of the battle between the old man Yamamoto and Lu Chenggong. Old man is defeated. The old man Yamamoto is not the kind of person who can't afford to lose. He has lived for so long and he has never experienced any storms. Although he can't believe that he is defeated, the truth is defeat means defeat, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. A very single adult is unable to fight anymore. Lu Chenggong was relieved when he heard the old man Yamamoto admit defeat. Although the battle just now was not long and it seemed to be simple, in fact, no one knew the danger better than him. If it weren't for his Bankai's other ability, Function's legs are terrifying, elegant, and unrecognizable, he might have died. The destructive power of the fire is too strong. It's easy to screw up. I lost. Did I really lose? Madaragi, who came here at some point, just saw old man Yamamoto being shot down by Lu Chenggong's kamikaze and admitting defeat. The strongest death god of the millennium was actually in the presence of so many people. He was defeated in front of him, and he himself admitted defeat. Yeah, I also feel like I'm in a dream. Ace Chuan Yujin has a feeling that he can't tell the truth from the fake. Obviously, old man Yamamoto has too much prestige in the heart of the god of death in the soul world. Hearing that he was defeated, it was a bit difficult to accept for a while. The old man is not wronged. No matter how powerful the attack cannot hit the enemy, it is still useless. It seems that the old man is really old. Can you tell this old man, what is your ability to kick out the kamikaze, follow your shadow, and be as fast as the wind? Old man Yamamoto raised his head and looked at Lu Chengkong with tired but curious eyes. Function leg. Lu Chengkong threw out 3 words. He found that he and Nifeng in Fengyan really had a lot of fate. His Shikai and Bankai's abilities were almost all like Nifeng's martial arts, and their power was as terrifying as Nifeng's. A good function leg, moves like the wind, moves like a thunderbolt, and is as fast as a shooting star. Coupled with your unpredictable magic knife like a demon, it is really a perfect Bankai. It is called the ability to invade the realm of God. It's not an exaggeration to say that the super strong Zanpakuto that perfectly combines the ghost type and the direct attack type. I always thought that I had overestimated your Zanpakuto as much as possible, but in the end, it seemed that I still underestimated your Zanpakuto, and even more underestimated you Lu Chengkong, the god of death. Old man Yamamoto couldn't help but exclaim when he heard the 3 words function leg, such an apt name. The old man is defeated, and I no longer have the strength to manage this. I think I will also step down as the captain after this time. Maybe this old man should enjoy the rest of his life. The old man Yamamoto used the Zanpakuto. The crutches stood up, sighed and suddenly disappeared in place. There is no need for him to exist here. 518 Kenpachi Bankai. Old man Yamamoto is actually defeated. Kuchiki Jinling, who was fighting with Kenpachi's Araki, paid a little attention to this side. He could see that old man Yamamoto's strength was definitely not much weaker than his. Although in the end, it is likely that the old man Yamamoto will die if he tries his best, but even so, it can be seen that the old man Yamamoto is extraordinary. After all, the old man Yamamoto is already old. But such a powerful god of death was defeated, and he himself admitted defeat. He was arrogant for a while and realized that he was a little reckless this time. If he was not careful, he might explain it completely here. With this idea, Kuchiki Jinling gradually had the idea of retreat. Do you want to leave alone? Don't die even if you think about it. I finally found an opponent who can let me let go of everything. Where will you escape? Zanaki Kenpachi saw Kuchiki Jinling's thoughts, and the offensive was even more intense. Violent, but after all, he is just a peak death god before reaching the limit before breaking the limit. Facing the dead wood Jinling who has broken the limit for many years, there is obviously a big gap. If it wasn't for his beast-like fighting intuition and Reiatsu, who is many times the same level of death, he might have been defeated a long time ago, but even so, he was slashed with a lot of knives. If you were distracted from looking at the old man Yamamoto, Kenpachi Zakiji's injury might be more serious. However, seeing Zaraki Kenpachi's expression of enjoyment change to the Shinigami of the 11th team who knew him well, Lu Chengkong and the other Shinigami present were immediately full of black lines. Hey, Kenpachi, you seem to be about to lose. Do you want me to help you? Ping Laojunzi cried out strangely. Go away, if you dare to intervene, I will kill you. Zaragi Kenpachi shouted in exasperation, like a shrew who scolded the street. He actually ignored Kuchiki Jinling's actions to chat with others during the battle, which made Kuchiki Jinling's brows furrowed, and a murderous intent flashed in her eyes. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill you. Although the god of death who broke the limit defeated the old man Yamamoto, he didn't seem to be injured, but it should also consume a lot. Even if you join, it's nothing, just be careful about that little girl. Suddenly, countless thoughts flashed in Kuchiki Jinling's mind, and finally decided to make a decision. With a flick of the Zanpakuto Vivi in his hand, his murderous intentions skyrocketed, and each slash was much sharper than before. The gap seems to be a bit big. It's really possible to die like this. Although he thought so in his heart, there was no fear or worry about death on his face, but the madness and fighting intent in his eyes continued. The soaring made Kuchiki Jinling startled. No matter how strong your fighting spirit is, the gap in strength cannot be made up for by the high fighting spirit. Die, the 90th black coffin of destruction. How strong is the number 90 breakthrough made by a god of death who has broken the limit? You can see it here. In the case of abandoning the singing, the black coffin of the deadwood golden bell is no longer than the original collapsing jade and entering the third stage. How bad is the collapse of jade? if the power of the Deadwood Golden Bell is completely chanted, it may be even more terrifying. After all, he broke the limit of the god of death by his own understanding, and he was a god of death who had practiced for many years after breaking the limit. There is a big gap between self-comprehension, and after many years of cultivation, and one who has not cultivated at all and relies on the power of Bengu. Trouble, the Shinigami or Shu who has broken the limit, especially after self-comprehension, the longer they practice, the more times they make breakthroughs, the stronger they become. This Deadwood Golden Bell is not much worse than the old man Yamamoto, even a little bit stronger. If you try your best, it's very likely that old man Yamamoto will die. Lu Chenggong smiled bitterly. He thought that after breaking the limit, he had obtained all the solution and all the spiritual pressure. His strength surpassed the strongest death god Yamamoto in the Soul Society for thousands of years in one fell swoop. Not bad. I didn't expect my strength to be at the level of a member of Team Zero. At most, it is stronger than the team members, but it is far worse than the vice captain, let alone the legendary Spirit King and Team Zero's captain. However, the bitterness at the corner of his mouth quickly disappeared, because no matter how talented this world is, it can't be strong without hundreds or even thousands of years of practice. Take Kurosaki Ichigo for example, his innate the conditions are good enough. Naturally, there is no need to accumulate spiritual pressure before breaking the limit. The aptitude is super good. Normally, it takes a long time for a Reaper to accumulate spiritual pressure, even if it is a genius. It can be said that the accumulation of spiritual pressure takes the longest time to cultivate. It can be said that the accumulation of spiritual pressure is the most time-consuming part of the death trial practice, especially when there is no the most time-consuming part of breaking the god of death cultivation, especially before breaking the limit of god of death and emptiness. The time to accumulate spiritual pressure is very long, every few decades or even the last year. Kurosaki Ichigo's strength soared so fast. The biggest reason for progressing so fast is that he has Kurosaki Masaki's Reiki as a basis, and does not need to accumulate Reiki. There are many superhuman advantages, but his original work can match Aizen, and it's super good after a long time. It is necessary to know that the time ratio between the boundary and the outer space is 1:2000. God knows how long Kurosaki Ichigo has been practicing in it. Swallowing bloodthirsty fury, the sea of blood descends, and the blood demon god. Zaraki Kenpachi obviously knew that he was likely to die in this black coffin, so he stopped hiding and showed his strongest strength. The whole body was burning with flames like blood, and a pair of eyes were already red as blood, and the sea of blood composed entirely of blood burst out from the body of Kenpachi Zakagi, surrounding his whole person. When the black coffin dissipated, it also showed the appearance of Zengi Kenpachi at this time. He was covered in scars, as if he would die at any time. After trying to solve it, he was wrapped in a sea of blood and suffered huge trauma. But for him who enjoys fighting, he doesn't feel any pain at all, and he just enjoys it. This is his pursuit. Grass, this guy won't be the reincarnation of DNF's Berserker. Lu Chenggong was a little speechless, looking at Zengmu Kenpachi's appearance at this time, that bloody battle, blood filled with blood, talking about hairstyle, a pair of big hands it has become a blood-red ghost claw, his eyes are red as blood, the crazy fighting spirit, the excitement, and the blood-red Zanpakuto all over his body looks like a prison blood demon. What's wrong, Xiaokong? Bachenliu seemed to have noticed Lu Chenggong's psychological change, a strange question. 519 Kenpachi Crisis. This guy is really a monster. Even if he is injured like this, he can't move. The blood can kill him. Kuchiki Jinling's eyes narrowed and Vivi looked a little shocked. There was no sign of retreat at all. With the fearful Zaragi Kenpachi, he couldn't understand this death god. Haha, this is my blood, the taste of my blood is good, let's increase my strength, the fury of blood. Zanaki Kenpachi laughed wildly like a madman, and the sea of blood around him rushed straight towards him. Entering his wound, and following his wound into his body, an astonishing scene appeared. The wounds on his body were completely recovered in an instant with the invasion of the sea of blood. Not only that, the spiritual pressure on Zengi Kenpachi was increasing wildly at a geometric level, and his body was filled with rich blood energy, and the Zanpakuto had changed from 1 to 2. It's still not enough. This kind of strength is still not enough for me to fight with you. Go crazy, the blood is rampant. Zakagi Kenpachi was still dissatisfied, and with a roar, his spiritual pressure suddenly tripled, and after this surge of spiritual pressure continuously improving. Oh my god, Kenpachi is likely to break the limit of the god of death if he continues to improve like this. Kuchiki Kyukawa looked at Kenpachi Zaragi in surprise and said, I think so too. Hirako Mako nodded in agreement. The other death gods, even the death god captain, had already retreated far away. Even if they fought at high altitude and did not affect the Seorite below, the terrifying Reiatsu would still remain. And the fluctuation of spiritual power still makes countless death gods unbearable. No, he may have the power to break through the limits of death and emptiness, but this power is very dangerous. It is even said that he is difficult to control, and you don't see it. Janpa's improvement is in addition to his cut in addition to Pakuto's ability, it comes at the cost of his own defense and blood. It can be said that Kenpachi's speed and strength will become very powerful in a short time. If he is slashed by him, his injury may be normal. Several times, and this power does not exist for a long time, this is an explosion of Kenpachi, and even if it is not dead, he will not be able to fight again. Quote. Lu Chengkong shook his head and said, yes, Zanpakutaki may have the power after breaking the limit for a short time, but it will return to its original shape after that, and this is too crazy and extreme, but such Zanpakuto's ability is indeed most suitable for more wood Kenpachi. Come on, Soul Eater. Zaraki Kenpachi seems to be satisfied with his state at this time, burning the sea of blood and the blood in his body, plus the power gained by giving up most of his defense power. This is what he needs. He doesn't need defense, all he needs is constant offense and fighting. Zengi Kenpachi's big blood-red hands pulled at Kuchiki Jinling and pulled back. Kuchiki Jinling was horrified to discover that this death god actually had the strength to fight him, although this strength existed for a very long time. For a short time, as long as he walks around for a while, he will be self-defeating, but he did not expect that Zaraki Kenpachi would be so strange. A powerful suction directly sucked his whole body. Before he could react, his body had come to the front of Zengi Kenpachi, and a pair of blood-colored hands pressed on Kuchiki Jinling's chest. Breakout. Zaraki Kenpachi sneered. Kuchiki Jinling only felt that the blood in his body seemed to be under some kind of control and was instantly absorbed a lot of blood energy and condensed on his chest. With the control of Zakagi Kenpachi, it suddenly erupted when he opened. The powerful impact made him fly out, and a huge wound had appeared in his chest, and blood was constantly flowing out. Hiss, bastard, I am the death god of the 0 Division, and I was injured by a small captain of the 13th Division of the Guardian. It is unforgivable, die under my Zanpakuto, fall into a dream, Yuhua water mirror. Kuchiki Jinling was in pain at first, but then followed by endless anger. His noble body was actually injured by a small captain of the 13th Division of the Guardian. He was so angry that he no longer hid his feelings. Shikai. As soon as Kuchiki Jinling's voice fell, the Zanpakuto in his hand turned into a blue light and disappeared, and hundreds of blue petals appeared around him. Beauty soars. I knew that the Zanpakuto of the Kuchiki family are very coquettish. Hirako Mako seemed to have said so earlier, but he was right. Kuchiki Byakuya and Kuchiki Yinling, who had died, still had this one in front of him. Kuchiki Jinling Zanpakuto all look very handsome, and they are good weapons for girls. Even Kuchiki Rukia's Zanpakuto, which has no blood relationship with the Kuchiki family in the original book, is known as the most beautiful Zanpakuto, and the Shinigami Zanpakuto, which has a little relationship with Kuchiki's family, is related to beauty. Fall into an eternal slumber. Kuchiki Jinling snorted coldly, his mind moved, and the blue petals floating around him immediately turned into a whirlwind of petals and slammed into Kenpachi's body. Is this your ability? It doesn't seem like you have any offensive power. Zaragi Kenpachi sneered and said contemptuously. How could you, stupid, appreciate the power of the Zanpakuto, fall asleep. Kuchiki Jinling's mouth twitched, forming a sarcastic and disdainful smile. When Zengeki Kenpachi heard the words, he only felt as if his head was hit by a big mountain. He was drowsy. He immediately knew that this was the opponent's Zanpakuto ability, but he was helpless because he kept himself from sleeping no matter what. It's not enough to pass, there is a voice in his heart that tempts him again. As long as he sleeps, everything will be over, and there will be no more pain. For about 3 seconds, the pair of blood-colored pupils full of violence and madness slowly closed, and the madness and bloody terrifying aura on his body seemed to fall asleep with the closing of his eyes. Haha, the ability of my Yuhua water mirror can make anyone fall asleep when touched by any petal. No matter how powerful, fast, and powerful you are, you will fall asleep, not like a baby. To be slaughtered. I have to say that this ability is very similar to a certain god of the Saint Seiya. It also makes people fall into a deep sleep and die in a deep sleep. Even if Lu Chengkong sees the state of Kenpachi Zengmu at this time, his face is one of sternness. The ability is the same as Jinghua Shuiyu and Shanghai's village is quite strange. If you don't find a way to crack it or the place where this ability is limited is really troublesome. Die, completely turn to ashes. Bankruptcy number 63 Thunder Roar Cannon. Kuchiki Jinling smiled proudly, although his Zero team is not a veteran member, but his ability makes many veteran players have to be afraid of one or two, so his status in the Zero team is not low. 520 Deadwood Golden Bell Bankai. It looks like I can only do it. Lu Chengkong sighed secretly. To be honest, he fought a battle just now, and it was indeed a lot of consumption. Although his resilience was amazing, it was still a bit overwhelming. No problem, but he was reluctant to take action on his little baby. Moreover, Lu Chengkong even wondered whether Ujawali, who was sitting on Shui Wuyu's body not far away with relish, would throw a Zanpakuto over if he let Bakuyan flow out of his hands, not to mention that he was not incapable of fighting anymore. He still has trump cards, but he just doesn't want to use them because of a member of Team Zero. After all, what he did today not only challenged the whole Corpse Soul world, but also provoked Team Zero. After all, he didn't intend to let Kuchiki Jinling leave alive. Since he has already offended him, he must offend him to the death. A point lost in the strength of a team is 1 point. Wait, Saifeng Yuan Yi suddenly grabbed Lu Chengkong's hand and said softly, if Lu Chengkong trusted the most intuition, it would undoubtedly be Saifeng Yuan Yi and Kaolu Bachinliu. The intuitions and feelings of the two girls are not like Zanaki Kenpachi, which can only be used in combat. They have extremely keen intuition and perception of other things, which may be related to their Zanpakuto abilities. In addition, women are born with a proud sixth sense, and the sixth sense of a powerful goddess of death is even more powerful. Zaraki Kenpachi's intuition is only the intuition during battle. It is completely dependent on feeling and intuition. In the original work, it can break the solution that Dongxian wants. This is his beast-like fighting intuition, but it is very single and can only be used in battle. I can't even know the road very clearly at ordinary times. That feeling is really poor and pitiful. On the contrary, Sefenjin Yaiki and Kusaka Yakiryu not only have the intuition and feeling of fighting that are not inferior to those of Kenpachi Zaragi, but they also have the same intuition and feeling in other matters. Feeling, perception is the same as fighting, very terrifying. So when Lu Chengkong heard Yi Yi's words, he put his hand on Shuiyin Quangdao again. He believed in Saifeng Yuan Yi, just like Saifeng Yuan's Yi believed him unconditionally. The enemy, he believed that Yi Yi would not harm him. Since she said so, she had her reasons. Sure enough, just before the Thunder Roar Cannon was about to swallow Zengi Kenpachi completely and turn him into dust, Zengi Kenpachi's eyes suddenly opened, no longer drowsy and lifeless, but compared to him, more sharp-edged before. Prison Blood Demon Break. A blood-colored light flashed wildly, and a large amount of blood energy instantly formed a huge blood-colored sword hilt beside Zengi Kenpachi. Soul-thirsty and demon sealing slash. Zaraki Kenpachi raised his left hand, using his blood to condense at such a close distance to form a small vortex with powerful suction, which directly sucked Kuchiki Jinling's whole body and couldn't move. Damn! Zanaki Janpachi roared. Two Zanpakuto combined into one, turned into a huge blood energy, and went to Kuchiki Yinling's chest and slashed down with a knife. Kuchi. Originally, the sudden and powerful stunt that suddenly appeared made Jinling, who was completely unprepared, immediately injured. A huge knife mark appeared on his face, and blood spattered wildly, dripping on Exiamu Kenpachi's body. Haha, is this the smell of your blood? That's great, let's take my swastika's great trick, slashing the mountains and the ground. Zaraki Kenpachi stretched out his scarlet tongue and licked the blood on his face, and he looked like a Hellshira who was drenched in blood and fought hard. Death was already pale with fright. I saw Kenpachi Zanpaku holding both hands on the hilt of the Zanpakuto at the same time. The body of the blade was injected with the blood energy transformed from the spiritual pressure in the body. The flame on the blade seemed to be burning with blood and demonic flames. Kenpachi jumped straight up, acting like a tiger rushing towards food, and the Zanpakuto with a bloody flame in his right hand draped directly into the air. Click. There was a crisp sound as if the space had been punched into a hole, but if you pay attention to it, you will find that a large space in front of Zaki Kenpachi has a gap like a crack, and a large amount of blood-colored flames suddenly sprayed out directly. Kuchiki Jinling was surrounded and burned. Okay, alright, a god of death who didn't break the limit actually pushed me to such a point that even if you die, you will die well, and if you can die in the hands of the god of death of the Zero Team, you will not waste your life. Wan let the gods fall into your dreams, Yuhua Water Mirror. Deadwood Jinling, who was burning in the middle of the blood-colored flame, suddenly spit out a very cold sentence. His anger has reached its limit. He never thought that he would be pushed to such a degree that his arrogant self-esteem suffered to the extreme. Big shame. It is very similar to Kuchiki Byakuya's swastika, but the difference is a cherry blossom blade with hidden murderous intentions in the sky, while Kuchiki Jinling is a blue petal, which has not shown other than the ability to make people fall asleep. Ability. Originally, Zaraki Kenpachi relied on swastika and his other Zanpakuto abilities to make his strength temporarily have the strength to fight against the members of Team Zero, but it was only based on the fact that the members of Team Zero did not use it. In the case of the swastika, once the swastika is resolved, the difference in strength will immediately widen at least twice. It must be known that the swastika of the god of death can increase the spiritual pressure of the god of death by 5 times and a maximum of 10 times. The level of improvement depends on the degree of mastery and development of swastika, as well as the aptitude of the god of death. Although Ichigo's aptitude is high, it is only a 5-fold increase in spiritual pressure just after using the god-turning body. Although the old man Yamamoto did not break the limit, he lived for thousands of years. Having been immersed in the Zanpakuto for so many years, his slaughter has already reached the pinnacle, and the improvement is definitely 10 times the highest. Here, it is once stated that the level of aptitude does not represent the final achievement of a god of death. Although it is said that, after breaking the limit, the god of death will be based on the level of strength, and the multiplier of swastika will also increase accordingly, and Kuchiki Jinling has obviously broken the limit of the god of death for a long time. Look at his spiritual pressure. The increase factor is at least 15 times, and the two of them don't say anything else for a moment, and the difference in spiritual pressure alone is at least 15 times. Don't underestimate the difference in spiritual pressure. The spiritual pressure is huge to a certain point, and a little difference is a big gap, because at a certain point, the difference in spiritual pressure is not only quantitative, but also qualitative, and now it is obvious it's not a star and a half, but a full 15 times, so it's a little ugly. Ethiopia can say that just relying on the spirit to suppress the dead wood and the golden bell may crush the Zengmu Janpachi. Do you feel the gap between us? Can you maintain the speed and strength just now in the face of this Reiatsu? I think it is extremely difficult for you to take a single step. After Kuchiki Jinling's explanation, the momentum of his speech changed, and he became more arrogant, as if he was the king who mastered victory.